The sword slides out of Ma Seung-hyun's back with a wet, grinding sound. He doesn't scream. He just looks down at the blade jutting through his chest. Dragon Fang's edge slick with his own blood. Our boy freezes. Behind him, Shin Woo-jin's voice is calm, almost bored. He asks if Seung-hyun really thought he'd share the glory. The dungeon boss lies dead at Seung-hyun's feet, a slain archlich whose core still crackles with unspent mana. They won. Corona cleared the S-rank gate, the deepest any Korean party has ever gone. And Seung-hyun is the reason. His legendary skill, God's Heart, absorbed the Lich's death curse and kept the whole party alive. Tanked it solo. Woo-jin's voice drops lower, and he admits he's been waiting 2 years for this exact moment. The other 3 party members stand perfectly still, watching. Oh Yoo-jung's hands are shaking at her sides, but she doesn't step forward. Jeon Hyun-soo's shield is already raised, not to protect Seung-hyun, but to block him from retreating. Yoon Se-ra's staff glows faintly, a binding spell already charged and aimed at his legs. They knew. They all knew. Seung-hyun's breathing turns ragged as the sword twists deeper, and he asks why. Woo-jin leans close to his ear and says, God's heart belongs to the leader, not the dog. The blade yanks free. Seung-hyun drops to his knees. His vision swims as blood pools beneath him. Dragon Fang's cursed edge stops all regeneration, even for an S-rank. Woo-jin steps around him, crouches, and places a single hand on Seung-hyun's chest. God's heart activates. A golden light rips from Seung-hyun's sternum and flows into Woo-jin's palm. The transfer is agonizing, every nerve on fire. Seung-hyun watches his years of grinding, his solo boss kills, his sleepless nights, all of it sucked into the man who called him brother. Woo-jin stands, and the golden aura settles around him like a king's mantle. He looks at the party and tells them Corona just entered a new era. No one looks at Seung-hyun. Yoo-jung finally meets his eyes and her mouth opens, but whatever she was about to say, she swallows it. She turns her back. Hyun-soo spits on the ground near Seung-hyun's hand and calls him dead weight. Se-ra doesn't even bother with that much. She just asks Woo-jin if they should collapse the cave to hide the evidence. Woo-jin says no. The dungeon collapse will take care of it naturally. They walk. Seung-hyun's face presses into cold stone as the footsteps fade. He's dying. He knows it. But his right hand still works, and it closes around something small. Something he kept stashed in his bracer for 2 years without ever telling anyone. A forbidden reincarnation scroll. A one-use black market artifact that costs everything. No body to return to. No class to carry over. But the soul remembers. He unrolls it with trembling fingers and smears his own blood across the runes. The scroll ignites. Dark flames swallow the chamber, and Seung-hyun's body crumbles to ash before his eyes even close. The last thing he sees is Woo-jin's silhouette, far down the tunnel, not even looking back. And then there is nothing. No light, no sound, just crushing pressure and the taste of iron in a throat that isn't his. Seung-hyun tries to open his eyes, and they don't work right. Everything is blurry, shapes too large, the world a smear of shadow and faint blue glow. He tries to stand, and his legs don't cooperate either. 4 of them. 4 legs. He's on all 4s and his body is wrong. Too small, too light. Covered in fur that he can feel twitch with every tiny shift of air. A screen flickers in front of his face. System notification. Reincarnation complete. New species. Shadow Wolf. Cub. Rank. F. Skills. None inherited. Title acquired. Abyssal Lord's pet. He stares at the words. Shadow Wolf. Abyssal Lord's pet. F rank. Our boy just fell from the top of the food chain to the absolute bottom. The cavern around him is enormous, cathedral-sized, with stalactites dripping something that glows faintly purple. A massive throne of fused bone and obsidian dominates the far end. And on that throne sits something that makes Seung-hyun's new wolf instincts scream. No Taeho, the Abyssal Lord, SS rank boss monster. 4 arms, each thicker than a human torso. A face that's mostly jaw, filled with fangs the length of daggers. 4 eyes, 2 on Seung-hyun and 2 scanning the darkness. The boss hasn't moved yet, but he's watching. Seung-hyun tries to process the situation. He's alive. He's a monster. He's the personal pet of one of the most dangerous beings in existence. And his revenge, his goal of destroying Corona, is years and 1,000 power gaps away. The Abyssal Lord's voice rumbles across the cavern like an earthquake, and he says the cub has finally woken. Seung-hyun's new ears flatten against his skull. He can understand the words. The Lord leans forward slightly and remarks that this one's eyes are strange, almost human. That's not good. Seung-hyun forces his body to move. His legs wobble. He takes 1 step, then another, then face plants directly into a patch of glowing moss. The Lord laughs. It's not a kind laugh, more like grinding stone, but somehow it isn't threatening either. He tells the cub to walk properly or he'll feed it to the worms. Seung-hyun gets upright again. He takes stock. F rank. No skills. Tiny, furry, but he's alive. And he's inside the lair of an SS rank boss that the hero guilds haven't cracked in decades. This is a head start nobody in the world can match. He just has to survive it. Lord gestures with one massive hand, and a chunk of meat the size of Seung-hyun's entire body lands in front of him. It's a wormling haunch, still steaming. The Lord tells him to eat. A dead pet is no use to anyone. Seung-hyun's new stomach twists with hunger he didn't even feel until this very second. He digs in. The meat is tough and tastes like copper and smoke. But as he swallows, something happens. A small pulse of warmth spreads through his limbs, and a faint notification flickers. Experience gained. First meal consumed. Growth accelerated. The Abyssal Lord watches him finish and says nothing else. Then the massive head turns away, dismissing the cub entirely. Guardians patrol the lair's outer ring. Lesser monsters scuttle through tunnels too narrow for the Lord to enter. And right now, down one of those tunnels, Seung-hyun catches the scent of something small and dying. He doesn't think. He just moves. His legs are steadier now, the meal already doing its work. The tunnel slopes downward into a small side chamber lit by glowing fungus. In the center, a stone rat lays on its side, breathing shallow. Its flank is torn open, and it's clearly bleeding out from a fight with something bigger. Seung-hyun approaches. The stone rat's eye rolls toward him, glassy and already half gone. It can't fight back. This is a free kill. Our boy hesitates for exactly one breath. Then he remembers Woo Jin's hand on his chest, the golden light ripping away everything he built. He lunges. His jaws are small, but his teeth are sharp enough. The stone rat dies with a single, pathetic squeak. A core drops. F rank, dull gray, about the size of a marble. Seung-hyun stares at it. The system told him he has no skills. Reincarnation is weird, and rules don't always apply cleanly. His tongue flicks out and he swallows the core whole. The effect is immediate. A violent shudder racks his small body, and his vision goes white. When it clears, he's standing in a void space with a single notification hanging in front of him. Skill absorption triggered. Inheriting skill. Stone skin. F rank. Effect. Increased physical defense. Degradation penalty. 70% effectiveness. And then the second notification, the one he didn't expect. Memory erosion detected. Fragment lost. First date with Yoo Jung. The memory surfaces for one agonizing second. Her laugh, the coffee shop, the way she reached across the table to fix his collar. Then it's gone. Permanently. Seung-hyun snaps back to the fungus-lit chamber and gasps. He remembers Yoo Jung's name. He remembers she existed. The date, the details, the warmth, the sound of her voice in that moment. It's all blank now. One core, one tiny F-rank rat. And a piece of who he was just got erased. He sits in the dark, breathing hard. Then he stands. Because what's the alternative? Stop? Let Woo Jin win? The cost is real, and it's brutal, but it's also the only path forward. He moves deeper into the tunnel. The stone skin settles into his body like a thin layer of grit beneath his fur. Seung-hyun catches another scent, sharper this time, alive and moving. Goblin. The creature scuttles around a corner before he even registers its approach. It's scrawny, maybe 3 feet tall, clutching a rusted knife in one hand and a pouch in the other. A scout. It sees Seung-hyun and freezes. Goblins are E rank, one tier above a stone rat. But this one is already injured, one arm hanging limp, and it clearly wasn't expecting a predator down here. Seung-hyun doesn't give it time to recover from the surprise. He activates the instinct buried in this new body, a low, silent lunge that his human reflexes never could have pulled off. His teeth close around the goblin's throat before it can scream. The knife clatters to the stone. He bites down harder, shakes once, and the goblin goes limp. Another core drops. This one glows faintly green. He swallows it. The void space returns. Skill absorption triggered. Inheriting skill. Goblin's luck. E rank. Effect. Minor increase to critical hit chance and loot quality. Degradation penalty. 70% effectiveness. And then the second notification. Memory erosion detected. Fragment lost. Team dinner after the B rank Griffin clear. The memory of clinking glasses, of Hyun-soo's stupid toast, of Sarah actually smiling. All of it dissolves like mist. The faces remain, but the moment vanishes. He now has 2 skills he didn't earn, and 2 holes in his past he can't fill. But his body feels stronger. He can feel the levels ticking up somewhere in his status, the raw stats building. Goblin's luck hums in his chest like a faint, mischievous pulse. He paws at the pouch the goblin dropped, and a single silver coin rolls out. Not much, but it's something. Seung-hyun drags the coin back to the main chamber with his teeth. The Abyssal Lord hasn't moved from the throne, but one of his 4 eyes tracks the cub as he enters with his prize. The Lord rumbles and says the cub hunts already. Then he laughs that grinding stone laugh again and adds that maybe this one won't be boring after all. Seung-hyun drops the silver coin at the base of the throne. It's a gamble, tribute, submission, a signal that he's useful. The Lord's massive hand scoops up the coin and flicks it into a pile of treasure that Seung-hyun hadn't noticed in the shadows. It's enormous. Gold, gems, weapons, artifacts. The Lord says he likes offerings. He adds that the cub may hunt in his domain as much as it wants, provided it brings him something from every kill. Seung-hyun's wolf heart beats faster. That's permission. That's access. The entire lair and everything in it, monsters, treasures, hidden chambers, is now his training ground. He lifts his head and meets the Lord's four-eyed gaze. The boss's expression doesn't change, but something passes between them, unspoken and electric. The Lord sees something in this cub. Seung-hyun doesn't know what. He doesn't need to know yet. He turns away and heads toward the tunnels again. One rat and one goblin down, a lifetime of killing ahead. The plan is simple. Hunt, absorb, grow. Lose himself piece by piece, until there's nothing left but the monster strong enough to tear Corona apart. And that's a trade he's ready to make. Seung-hyun moves. He doesn't look back at the throne. The Abyssal Lord's permission hangs in the air behind him like a half-spent spell, and the cub's paws carry him deeper into the tunnels than he's ever gone before. The fungus light fades behind him. Darkness closes in, thick and wet and alive. His new wolf eyes adjust faster than his human ones ever could, painting the tunnel in shades of gray and green. Shapes emerge from the black. Stalactites drip from the ceiling like stone fangs. The floor slopes downward at a sharp angle, and the air turns cold enough to make his breath fog. He follows a scent he doesn't have a name for, something metallic and old and wrong. The tunnel splits three ways. Left path reeks of rot. Right path hums with a faint vibration he can feel in his ribs. Center path is silent. Too silent. Seung-hyun picks center. His instincts scream at him to turn back, but the same instincts also tell him that the best prey hides where other predators won't follow. He pads forward on silent paws. The tunnel opens into a chamber smaller than the Lord's throne room, but still big enough to swallow a house. A pool of black water sits in the center, perfectly still and reflecting nothing. No ripples. No light. Just a hole in the world that happens to be wet. Something moves at the edge of the pool. Seung-hyun freezes. The creature is humanoid, but wrong in every way that matters. 6 feet tall. Stretched thin like someone pulled a shadow over a skeleton and forgot to add meat. Its head swivels toward him without a sound. No eyes, no mouth. Just a smooth, featureless face that watches him anyway. The system tags it before Seung-hyun can even process what he's looking at. Shadow Lurker, E rank, low-tier lair predator. E rank, 1 tier above a goblin. The lurker doesn't charge. It doesn't roar or threaten or posture. It just slides toward him, silent and fluid and wrong, its feet never quite touching the stone. Seung-hyun's hackles rise. Stone skin is already active, gritting beneath his fur like a second skeleton. Goblin's luck hums faintly in his chest. Not a combat skill, but the system says it improves critical hits. He's about to need every edge he can scrape together. The lurker strikes first. One arm elongates into a blade of condensed shadow and whips toward his throat. Seung-hyun dodges. Barely. The blade shears through the air where his neck was half a second ago and buries itself in the stone wall behind him. The rock doesn't crack. It just dissolves. He doesn't wait for a second swing. His legs coil and launch him at the lurker's torso, jaws aiming for where a throat should be. His teeth sink into something that feels like cold smoke and static. The lurker shudders. Not in pain, in surprise. It didn't expect a cub to fight back. Its body ripples and tries to turn intangible, but Seung-hyun's already committed, already clamped down, and the thing can't phase through something that's already inside it. It flails. A second limb forms, this one a hammer of solid darkness, and it slams into his ribs. Stone skin absorbs most of the hit. Most, not all. Impact rattles through his small body like a thunderclap, and he loses his grip, skidding across the stone floor. He lands hard. His vision swims. But the lurker is slower now. Its form flickers at the edges, less solid than before, and the place where he bit it is leaking something that isn't blood. Doyun, black and viscous, drips onto the stone and evaporates. Seung-hyun stands. His ribs ache, and his jaw feels like he bit a live wire. But he stands. The lurker advances again, slower this time, cautious. It raises both arms, and the shadows around the chamber start to writhe. The walls twist. The pool bubbles. Darkness thickens in the air like smoke from a grease fire. It's gathering power for something big. Seung-hyun doesn't let it finish. He lunges low, under the forming attack, and his teeth find the creature's leg. The lurker collapses. Its shadow blade arms dissolve mid-swing, and it hits the stone with a sound like tearing silk. Seung-hyun goes for the head, or what passes for a head. He bites and shakes and bites again, and every time his teeth close on that wrong, cold flesh, the thing gets a little dimmer, a little less there, until it isn't there at all. The body evaporates. All that remains is a core the size of a walnut, black as a dead star, pulsing with a faint violet light. Seung-hyun stares at it. His ribs still burn. His legs tremble. He's an F-rank cub who just killed an E-rank predator in its own territory. He eats the core. The void space swallows him whole. The notification floats in front of him, cold and clean and indifferent. Skill absorption triggered. Inheriting skill. Shadow step. E-rank. Effect. Short-range teleportation through connected shadows. Range increases with level. Degradation penalty. 70% effectiveness. And then the second notification. Memory erosion detected. Fragment lost. First meeting with Oh Jung. The memory surfaces. He's 23 years old, fresh out of the Hunter Academy, assigned to a B-rank dungeon clear with a party he doesn't know. The healer assigned to his squad is a woman with tired eyes and a smile that doesn't reach them. She introduces herself as Yoo Jung. He doesn't think much of it. Just another healer. Just another mission. But she patches up a gash on his arm after a trap catches him off guard, and her hands are steady and warm. And she tells him to stop trying to tank everything himself. It's the first time anyone in a party has told him to be careful, instead of just ordering him to be better. He remembers the sting of the antiseptic, and the way her hair fell across her face when she leaned in to check the wound. He remembers thinking that maybe this party would be different. Then it's gone. Seung-hyun opens his eyes. He's back in the chamber, standing over an empty patch of stone where a monster used to be. He knows Yoo Jung's name. He knows she was in Corona. He knows she was his lover. But the first meeting, the dungeon, the gash, the warmth of her hands, it's all blank now. A hole in his history with clean edges and nothing inside. He stands there for a long moment. Then he tests the new skill. Shadow Step activates like a muscle he didn't know he had. Shadows in the room reach toward him, not threatening but inviting. And when he steps into one, he exits through another on the far side of the pool. Instant. Silent. The movement doesn't trigger any sound or vibration. He's just there. The range is short, maybe 10 feet at most, but it's a skill that doesn't exist in any human hunter's arsenal. Shadow Lurker abilities are unique to lair monsters, and now one of them belongs to him. He practices twice more. Each teleportation makes his head pound, and his mana reserves dip. But the skill is real, and it works, and it's his. 3 cores, 3 skills, 3 memories erased. The math is brutal, but the power is undeniable. And power is the only currency that matters in this world. Seung-hyun leaves the chamber and heads back up the slope. His body moves differently now. Shadow Step threads into his instincts, alongside Stone Skin and Goblin's Luck. And the combination makes him feel less like a cub and more like something new, something that shouldn't exist. He reaches the main tunnel and a scent hits him. Not prey this time, but monster. Multiple monsters. And they're moving toward him. 3 shapes emerge from the gloom ahead. Shadow Wolves. Adults. Each one is twice his size, with fur the color of coal smoke and eyes that glow like embers in a dying fire. The lead wolf stops 10 feet away and stares at him, not with curiosity, with hostility. Seung-hyun knows what this is. The lair has a hierarchy, and he just killed something in territory that doesn't belong to him. These wolves aren't hunters, they're enforcers. The lead wolf growls low in its throat, and the sound vibrates through the stone beneath Seung-hyun's paws. It's a challenge. A warning. A question, really. Who do you think you are, cub? Seung-hyun doesn't growl back. He doesn't cower either. He just meets the wolf's eyes and waits. Tension stretches. One of the other wolves shifts its weight, ready to lunge. And then a voice cuts through the tunnel like a blade through silk. The wolves don't attack him, it says. They don't retreat either. They just stand there, frozen mid-threat, every muscle locked. Seung-hyun turns. The Abyssal Lord's presence fills the tunnel behind him. Not physically, not yet. But his aura rolls down the stone like a storm front, heavy and electric and absolute. The wolves feel it too. Their ears flatten, their tails drop. The lead wolf whines. The Lord's voice rumbles through the stone again and says the cub belongs to him. He adds that anyone who touches what belongs to him will stop existing. The wolves don't need to hear it twice. They bolt. Seung-hyun watches them disappear into the darkness, and when he turns back, the Lord is already there, filling the tunnel with his impossible size. His 4 eyes study the cub. One of them narrows. The Lord says the cub killed a lurker. He says he can smell it on him. Then he laughs. That grinding stone laugh that makes the walls tremble, and says perhaps his pet has teeth after all. Seung-hyun doesn't respond. There's nothing to say. The Lord's scrutiny feels like being dissected, but he endures it without flinching. After a long moment, the Lord speaks again. He says the cub has proven himself worth a small investment. Then he reaches into the folds of his robe and pulls out something that glows faintly blue. A map, scratched onto what looks like cured worm hide, the ink still wet with something that might be blood. The Lord tosses it at Seung-hyun's feet. He says this will lead the cub to a place where the real hunting begins. He adds that if the cub survives, they'll talk again. If he doesn't, the Lord won't bother remembering his name. Seung-hyun looks at the map, then back at the Lord. The boss's expression hasn't changed. Still that same unreadable mask of stone and scale and ancient, patient hunger. But something in the air between them has shifted. The Lord isn't just tolerating him anymore. He's testing him, and Seung-hyun intends to pass. He picks up the map in his teeth and turns toward the tunnel the wolves fled through. The Lord's laughter follows him into the dark, low and rumbling and full of something that might be anticipation. Seung-hyun doesn't look back. He's got a map, a new skill, and a hole in his memory where Yu Jung's first kindness used to live. The price is climbing. The power is climbing faster, and somewhere in the darkness ahead, something waits for him to arrive. He breaks into a run. The map rattles against his chest, and shadow step pulses in his veins, and the tunnel swallows him whole. He isn't a cub anymore. He's a hunter with a target and a grudge, and a growing list of things he's willing to lose. And the lair just got a whole lot smaller. The map doesn't lead him to a straight corridor. It leads him down. The tunnel drops at a 45-degree angle, slick with condensation, and something darker that smells like old copper. Seung-hyun's claws skitter on the stone as he descends, the worm-hide map clamped tight in his jaws, and the faint blue glow painting the walls in corpse light. He doesn't slow down. He can't slow down because the map is warm against his tongue, and the warmth is intensifying the deeper he goes, which means he's getting closer to whatever the Lord marked. The passage narrows until his shoulders scrape both walls. Then it opens. The chamber beyond is wrong. Not dangerous wrong, not yet. Just architecturally impossible in a way that makes his hackles rise before his brain catches up. The ceiling is too high to see, lost in a darkness that swallows the map's glow entirely. The floor is worked stone, flat and smooth, carved with grooves that all run toward a central depression the size of a small lake. And in that depression, absolutely still, sits water so black it looks like a hole in the world. Seung-hyun stops at the edge. His reflection doesn't stare back. The pool swallows light the way the lurker swallowed sound, and every instinct he has tells him to back away and find another route. The map says otherwise. It's glowing brighter now, the blue shifting towards something closer to white, and the lines scratched into the hide are rearranging themselves in real time. He watches the ink crawl across the cured skin like a living thing, and stops breathing for a second because that isn't magic he understands. Monster magic works on instinct and inherent ability. It doesn't do this kind of deliberate, encoded guidance. This is something else. Something older. The map finishes its rearrangement, and the new pattern is unmistakable. A spiral that starts at the edge of the pool and winds inward, terminating at the exact center. Then he looks at the water. Then he looks back at the map. Our boy has been a wolf for less than a week, and he's already about to do something suicidally stupid. Some things transcend species. He tucks the map into a fold of stone where it'll stay dry. Then he steps into the pool. The water isn't cold. It isn't warm either. It's the exact temperature of his own body, which is somehow worse. Because for the first 3 steps, he genuinely cannot tell where his legs end and the liquid begins. The sensation makes his skin crawl. He keeps moving anyway, following the spiral inward, and the water climbs from his paws, to his ankles, to his knees. At waist height, something changes. A current. Not water current, something deeper. A pull that doesn't affect his body but tugs at something behind his ribs. His mana responds before he tells it to, flaring outward in a defensive pulse that does absolutely nothing except announce his presence to whatever lives here. Guess what happens next? The pool lights up, not the water itself, the grooves in the stone floor, the ones he noticed on his way in. All of them igniting at once, with lines of pale blue fire that race toward the center faster than he can track. And at the center, rising from the black water like it was waiting for exactly this moment, is a platform. Stone. Circular. Covered in glyphs that match the ones on the map. Seung-hyun swims toward it because at this point, turning back isn't an option, and he's too far in to pretend otherwise. He hauls himself onto the platform, and the glyphs flash once, blinding white. And when his vision clears, the pool is gone. The chamber is gone. He's standing on grass. Green, living grass that bends under his weight and smells of sunlight and pollen, and things that have no business existing 3 miles underground. Ahead of him, a tree grows out of nothing. It's massive, trunk as wide as a house, branches spreading in a canopy that filters light from a sky that shouldn't exist into dappled gold. And at the base of the tree, coiled in roots that pulse with the same blue light as the map, is a serpent. It's easily 30 feet long, scales the color of old copper, streaked with veins of something that glows faintly green. Its eyes are closed. Its breathing is slow. Seung-hyun knows what this is. Viper. Not an ordinary viper. Those top out at D rank and maybe 8 feet in length, but a matriarch. An ancient specimen that's been feeding on whatever power source this hidden grove runs on for decades or longer. The map wanted him here. The Lord wanted him here. And the snake, currently asleep and completely unaware of the wolf cub staring at it from 20 feet away, has a core that Seung-hyun very much wants to eat. The problem is the size difference. 30 feet of muscle and poison versus 2 feet of fur and borrowed skills is not a fight. It's a snack run with the roles reversed. But he's got something the snake doesn't. A brain that spent 15 years as an S-rank hunter before it got shoved into a cub's body. He studies the terrain. The grove is a bubble of impossible nature, maybe 50 yards across, with the tree at the center and grass spreading in all directions until it meets a wall of solid darkness. No cover, no high ground, no obvious environmental weapon he can trigger. But there's the tree, and the tree's roots are everywhere, and some of them are dead. The viper has coiled itself into living roots, the ones that glow blue and pulse with whatever energy this place generates. The dead roots, the ones that are just wood, are on the far side of the trunk. Seung-hyun circles wide, keeping the snake in his peripheral vision, and his footsteps silent on the grass. His paws don't make sound anyway. Shadow Step is still there, coiled in the back of his skull like a second heartbeat. He's not using it yet because the headache from the last set of teleports hasn't completely faded, and he needs his head clear for what comes next. He reaches the dead roots. They're enormous, each one as thick as his whole body, rising from the soil in twisted arches that look almost architectural. And they're dry. Bone dry, the wood split and splintered, completely unlike the pulsing blue life on the other side of the tree. Seung-hyun presses a paw against the nearest root and pushes. It doesn't move. He pushes harder, throwing his whole weight into it, and feels something shift deep in the wood. Not enough. He backs up 10 paces, takes a breath, and activates Stone Skin. His fur hardens, his bones densify. The skill doesn't make him stronger, but it makes him heavier, and it makes him durable. And right now, durability is the only thing he needs. He charges the root at full speed and slams his shoulder into the cracked portion he identified. The impact rattles every tooth in his skull. The root groans. A split opens along its length, wider than his head, and the sound echoes through the grove like a gunshot. The viper opens its eyes. They're green. Not the green of leaves or grass or anything natural, a flat, chemical green that glows from within and leaves afterimages when it moves. It uncoils from the living roots in one fluid motion and rises to a height that puts its head level with the lowest branches of the tree. Its tongue flickers. It tastes him on the air and its pupils contract to vertical slits. Seung-hyun does not run. He does not attack. He stands on the dead root with his stone skin still active and waits, because the viper is now facing exactly where he wants it to face and looking exactly where he wants it to look. The snake strikes. 30 feet of serpent moving at speed that blurs the air. Its jaws unhinge and the fangs descend, each one dripping venom that hisses when it hits the grass. Seung-hyun teleports. Not far, 6 feet, maybe 7, just enough to land on the snake's own coiled body instead of the root where he was standing. The viper's fangs sink into dead wood. They punch straight through the dried-out fibers and lodge deep in the root's core. And when the snake tries to pull back, it can't. The fangs are hooked. Evolution designed them to hold struggling prey, which means they slide in easy and rip out hard. And a 30-foot viper matriarch suddenly has its face stuck in a chunk of wood twice its own thickness. It thrashes. Root shudders but doesn't give. Seung-hyun doesn't waste the opening. He scrambles up the snake's body, claws finding purchase between scales, and goes for the eyes. The left one first. He sinks his teeth into the membrane and the viper screams. A sound that isn't air vibrating, but mana projected directly into the air, and the force of it nearly throws him off. He hangs on. His jaws lock, and his head wrenches sideways, and the eye comes free in a spray of something that isn't blood. Just that awful green light in liquid form. The snake's thrashing doubles, rips free from the root in a shower of splinters, and whips its body in a loop that Seung-hyun can't dodge. The impact catches him across the ribs, and he goes flying. He hits the grass hard, bounces, slides to a stop against the tree trunk. Stone skin absorbs most of it, not all. His ribs ache, a familiar pain from the lurker fight, and his vision is doing something weird at the edges. The viper turns on him, half blind and absolutely furious, and Seung-hyun sees the venom glands in its throat swelling. This is the real danger. Not the fangs, the spray. A matriarch viper can aerosolize its venom and fill a whole chamber with poison that dissolves flesh on contact. He watches the throat bulge. He watches the jaws open. He shadow steps directly into the snake's mouth. It's absolutely insane, and it's the only move that works. Because the venom spray needs distance to disperse, and inside the mouth, the glands haven't activated yet. The darkness swallows him. The heat is suffocating. He lands on the snake's tongue and sinks every claw he has into the soft tissue of the upper palate, and the viper's whole body convulses. It can't bite him because its own mouth is in the way. It can't spray because the venom hasn't pressurized. It can only thrash and gag and try to dislodge the wolf cub, who is now clawing his way toward the back of its throat. Seung-hyun reaches the soft spot behind the jaw hinge and bites down with everything he has. The core is there. He can feel it. A pulse of heat that doesn't match the snake's body. A concentrated knot of mana that sings at a frequency only his skill absorption can hear. His teeth aren't strong enough to punch through viper scale. But they don't need to be. He's inside the snake. There's no armor on the inside. He chews through membrane and muscle, and the viper's death throes are shaking the whole grove now. Branches raining down from the tree, grass flattening in waves from the pressure of its spasms. He finds the core. It's the size of a fist and glowing green, as poison and hot enough to burn his tongue when he closes his jaws around it. He crunches down. The core shatters. Skill absorption triggers instantly, and the viper's body goes limp beneath him because the core was the only thing keeping something that old and that large alive. The energy floods into him like an infection, hot and foreign and wrong. His body trying to reject a power that belongs to a completely different evolutionary branch. His veins light up green under his fur. His mana channels scream, and somewhere in the back of his head, a door slams shut. The memory that goes this time is small. Just a single afternoon years ago, when Yu Jung had dragged him out of the guild hall after a bad mission and bought him coffee at a shop neither of them had been to before. She'd talked about her sister. He'd listened. It wasn't significant in the grand scheme of things. Just one of those incidental moments that glue a friendship together. The kind of day you don't realize mattered until it's gone. He'll never remember it now. The system pings. New skill acquired. Viper Fang. D rank. Effect. Manifest Poison Fangs. Venom scales to target's max health. Single bite per activation. Degradation penalty. 70%. Effectiveness. Venom potency reduced. Duration halved. Seung-hyun spits out a mouthful of snake blood and crawls out of the viper's corpse. He's covered in viscera. His ribs are definitely cracked. His mana reserves are sitting at maybe 15%. And he just gained a D-rank skill from an enemy that should have killed him in 2 seconds flat. Our boy is an F-rank cub who just took down a matriarch-class predator with nothing but a map, a dead tree, and the willingness to teleport into a monster's throat. That's not luck. That's not even skill, really. That's the kind of desperate, borderline insane creativity that made him an S-rank hunter in the first place. Goblin's luck might have helped. He'll give it partial credit. He drags himself up the viper's body toward the tree and collapses against the trunk. The grove is quiet now. The blue light in the roots is pulsing slower, like the whole place is settling back into hibernation, and the impossible sunlight filtering through the canopy feels almost warm on his blood-soaked fur. He looks at the corpse. 30 feet of dead serpent, one eye missing, its insides torn open from the inside out. The core is gone, but the fangs are still there. He doesn't know why he does it. Some hunter's instinct, maybe. The same impulse that made him collect trophies from his dungeon clears back when he was human. But he climbs back up and pries one of the detached fangs from the wreckage of the snake's mouth. It's as long as his foreleg and still dripping venom. He wraps it in a strip of his own fur that he tears off with his teeth, which hurts because apparently wolf cubs can do that. The fang goes into the same mental inventory as the map. Trophy, weapon, maybe. Evidence, definitely, because the Lord is going to want proof that his pet actually survived. Speaking of survival, the grove is starting to fade. Not visually, the grass is still grass, the tree is still a tree, but the edges are softening, the darkness pressing inward, and the light from the canopy is dimming like a lantern running out of fuel. This place was the Viper's. Without the Viper, whatever magic sustained it is collapsing. Seung-hyun grabs the map from the stone fold where he stashed it earlier and watches the lines rearrange themselves again. A new route, out of the grove, deeper into the lair's unexplored levels, towards something the map labels with a symbol he doesn't recognize. A spiraling glyph that looks almost like the one on the platform, but inverted. He limps toward the exit before the grove collapses entirely and takes him with it. The tunnel beyond is different from the one he entered through. Wider, older, maybe. The stone carved with patterns that don't match any monster architecture he's ever seen. More of those blue-lit grooves run along the walls, and the map glows brighter the further he goes. His ribs protest every step. His head is still ringing from the skill absorption hangover. And somewhere in his chest, the ghost of Yu Jung's voice telling him about her sister has already faded into static. He won't miss what he can't remember. That's the trap, of course. The whole brutal calculus of his new existence. The more he loses, the easier it gets to keep losing. And the easier it gets, the faster he'll slide into something that isn't Ma Seung-hyun at all. But that's a problem for later. Right now, he has 4 skills in his arsenal. A viper fang wrapped in wolf fur, a map that's leading him toward the real hunting grounds the Lord promised. The tunnel slopes upward. The blue lights bright ahead. Faint but growing stronger, he hears sounds that don't belong in a dead lair. Voices, footsteps, the clang of metal on stone. Not monsters, hunters. The clang of metal on stone isn't echoing anymore. It's right around the next bend. Seung-hyun presses his body low against the tunnel floor, cracked ribs screaming at him to stop moving. He doesn't stop. The blue glow from the map is weak enough now that he can tuck it under his belly without the light giving him away. He edges forward until he can see the source of the noise. 3 hunters in a side chamber, maybe 50 feet ahead. Their gear says mid-level, B rank at best, but the way they're moving says they've been down here a while. Armor scuffed. One of them nursing a bandaged arm, supplies running low. They're arguing about whether to turn back. The one with the bandaged arm says they've already lost 2 squad members and haven't found anything worth the casualties. Their leader, a woman with a short sword and a shield that's seen better days, tells him to shut up and check the eastern passage. Our boy stays still in the shadows and watches. He knows exactly who they are. Not their names maybe, but their type. Scout Squad. Sent ahead of a larger force to map the lair and clear the low-level monsters before the main party arrives. Which means Corona isn't far behind them. The timing couldn't be worse. His mana's at 15%, his ribs are a mess, and he's got 1 good fight left in him at best. If Woo Jin walks into this lair right now, Seung-hyun is dead. No dramatic final confrontation, no revenge, no reclaiming what was stolen. Just a wolf cub getting stepped on by an S-rank party that doesn't even know he exists. He needs to slow them down. Bandaged Hunter moves toward the eastern passage, and Seung-hyun makes his decision before his brain finishes calculating the odds. Shadow step. He lands in the darkness behind a stalagmite 10 feet deeper into the chamber, and the drain hits him immediately. His vision swims, his head pounds, but he's close enough now to hear the leader muttering about their schedule. She says they're supposed to rendezvous with the main force in 6 hours. 6 hours. That's all the time he has. Tucks the map deeper under his body and creeps past the scouts, staying to the shadows where the blue-lit grooves don't reach. The tunnel on the other side of the chamber slopes downward, and the air changes as he descends. Warmer, wetter. The stone under his paws gets rougher, less carved, more natural, and the scent of something living hits him before he sees the source. Blood, musk, and the sharp tang of mana-rich meat. The hunting grounds. He rounds a corner, and the tunnel opens into a cavern that makes the Viper's Grove look like a garden shed. It's massive, cathedral height, stalactites dripping with condensation. Floor a broken maze of stone pillars and shallow pools that reflect the blue light from the walls. And everywhere, monsters. A pack of stone rats the size of dogs, clustered around a carcass. Something with too many legs skittering across the ceiling. A bipedal lizard man sharpening a blade on a whetstone near a pool. 20 of them, maybe more, scattered across the cavern floor. This is where the Abyssal Lord's hunting happens for real. Seung-hyun presses himself flat against the tunnel entrance and surveys the terrain like he used to do before a dungeon boss fight. Cover everywhere. Pillars, pools, rock formations. Multiple exits on the far side, most of them unexplored. And in the center of the cavern, standing on a raised stone platform like it owns the place, is the biggest shadow wolf he's seen that isn't the Lord. Easily twice the size of the enforcers who confronted him earlier. Its fur is the color of wet charcoal, black streaked with silver, and its eyes are the same cold violet as the Lord's. A scar runs from its left ear down to its jaw, and one of its fangs is chipped. This is Rex. It has to be. The name surfaces from some fragment of monster lair knowledge Seung-hyun absorbed without realizing it. Rex. The alpha of the Shadow Wolf Pack, second only to the Lord himself. And right now, Rex is staring directly at him. Our boy doesn't move, neither does Rex. The cavern goes quiet in that way that only happens when every creature in the room realizes a predator just noticed something interesting. Lizard Man stops sharpening, the stone rats freeze. Even the skittering thing on the ceiling goes still. Rex takes 1 step off the platform, then another. His pace is unhurried. The walk of something that's never had to hurry for a kill. The pack's enforcers were one thing. They were testing the Lord's patience by threatening his pet. But Rex isn't testing anything. He's assessing a threat. Seung-hyun stands up, not because he wants to fight. He's at 15% mana with cracked ribs and a poison skill that might not even work on a creature that evolved in the Abyss. But because cowering is going to get him killed faster than posturing will. Rex stops 10 feet away. He's massive up close. His head level with Seung-hyun's shoulders, even though our boy has grown since the wormling meet. The Alpha's nostrils flare, taking in the scent of viper blood, snake venom, and something else. Something that doesn't belong on a monster. The scent of a human soul stuffed into a wolf cub's body. Rex growls low in his chest, and the meaning is clear enough that Seung-hyun doesn't need words. You don't belong here. Seung-hyun meets his eyes and doesn't look away. He's done this dance before, back when he was human. Back when every S-rank dungeon clear started with a staring contest against something that could kill him. Rules don't change just because he's got fur now. A second growl, deeper. Rex takes another step forward. The pack watches. The whole cavern watches. And then Seung-hyun does something that surprises even himself. He pulls the Viper Fang out of his mental inventory and drops it on the stone between them. It lands with a wet thunk, still wrapped in his own fur, venom still dripping from the tip. The Alpha looks at the Fang. Back at Seung-hyun. Back at the Fang. He knows what it is. Everyone in this lair knew about the Viper Matriarch, the creature that lived in the grove beneath the Black Pool. Predator that even the Enforcers avoided. And this F-rank cub just dropped one of its fangs at Rex's feet like a business card. The Alpha's growl changes pitch. Not angry anymore, curious. He sniffs the fang once, then nudges it back towards Seung-hyun with his nose. Our boy takes it back, tucks it away, and waits. Rex turns and walks toward one of the side passages. After 3 steps, he stops and looks back. The message couldn't be clearer if he'd spoken it. Follow me. Seung-hyun follows. The side passage is narrow, barely wide enough for Rex's shoulders, and it winds upward at a sharp angle. The blue light from the main cavern fades behind them, replaced by a dim amber glow that seems to come from the stone itself. Seung-hyun's ribs are killing him. Every step sends a spike of pain through his chest, and his mana reserves aren't recovering fast enough to activate stone skin for protection. But he keeps walking. Rex leads him into a smaller chamber, this one clearly the Alpha's den. Bones stacked in the corners, a bed of dried moss and fur near the back wall, and a pool of water in the center that glows the same amber as the walls. Rex positions himself beside the pool and gestures with his head toward the water. Drink. Seung-hyun limps to the pool's edge and laps at the water. The effect is immediate. Warmth floods through his body. His mana reserves jump from 15% to 30% in the space of 3 heartbeats, and the pain in his ribs dulls from excruciating to merely unpleasant. This isn't water. It's liquid mana refined and concentrated in a way he's never seen before. The Alpha's private stash. Rex watches him drink, and when he's done, the big wolf lies down beside the pool. He says nothing, because shadow wolves don't talk, but his posture shifts from aggressive to something closer to territorial acceptance. He's decided the cub isn't a threat, or maybe he's decided the cub is useful. Either way, Seung-hyun just got invited into the Alpha's den and given access to a resource that could cut his recovery time in half. He drinks again. His mana hits 40%. The pain in his ribs fades to a dull ache. Somewhere in the back of his head, the system pings a notification he barely notices. Something about recovery rates and temporary buffs. But he's too busy thinking about the scouts in the upper tunnels. 6 hours. Less. Now, he needs to get back up there and slow Corona's advance. And he needs to do it before his mana runs out again. Rex seems to sense the shift in his attention. The Alpha raises his head, ears forward, and makes a low sound that Seung-hyun has learned to recognize as a question. Seung-hyun meets his eyes and thinks about how to communicate. There are human hunters in the upper tunnels. The same hunters who are going to kill everyone in this lair if they reach the lower levels. And I need to stop them, without words or hands, or a human face. He can't, but he can show him. He takes 3 steps toward the tunnel they came from, then stops and looks back. Rex doesn't move. He takes 3 more steps. This time, he lets out a short bark. The first vocalization he's made since arriving in this lair, and Rex's ears perk up. Seung-hyun turns and walks toward the exit. Behind him, he hears the Alpha stand. The weight of those massive paws follows him out of the den, and when they emerge back into the main cavern, Rex is still there, still following, still watching. The pack notices immediately. A couple of the enforcers Seung-hyun met earlier are at the edge of the group, and their body language shifts from hostile to confused when they see their Alpha trailing the F-rank cub like a lieutenant. The lizard man at the pool grunts something that might be a laugh. Seung-hyun ignores all of them and heads for the tunnel that leads back to the upper levels. Rex follows him all the way to the entrance. At the threshold, the Alpha stops and makes a sound that's somewhere between a growl and a sigh. He's not coming, but he's not stopping Seung-hyun either. Our boy looks at the massive wolf, then at the tunnel ahead. Then at the amber glow still warming his chest from the mana pool, he understands. This is a test. The same way the Lord's map was a test, the same way the Viper was a test. The lair wants to know what he's capable of. Seung-hyun turns his back on the Alpha and climbs. The scouts are right where he left them, still arguing, still exhausted, still not paying nearly enough attention to the shadows. Numbers have dropped to 2, the bandaged one and the leader. The third must have taken the eastern passage alone. Stupid, but useful. Seung-hyun circles wide around the chamber, using the stalagmites for cover, and positions himself between the scouts and the tunnel that leads deeper into the lair. The leader says something about regrouping with the main force early. The bandaged one agrees, says they've already lost too many, says the intel on this lair was bad from the start. Seung-hyun waits until the leader turns her back. Then he activates Shadow Step and puts himself directly in their exit path. He doesn't attack. He just stands there, a wolf cub barely bigger than a dog, covered in dried viper blood and glowing faintly with residual mana. The bandaged hunter sees him first. His eyes go wide. He raises his sword, shouts a warning to the leader, and Seung-hyun does the one thing guaranteed to terrify a bunch of B-rank scouts who've already lost half their squad. He smiles. Wolves can't smile, not really, but Viper Fang gives him a mouthful of poison fangs that glow faintly green in the dark, and when he opens his jaws, both hunters take a step back. The leader raises her shield. Seung-hyun doesn't move. She shouts at him, calls him a monster, demands to know what he is, and the bandaged one is already backing toward the eastern passage with panic in his eyes. Our boy tilts his head, waits, and he lets out a sound that's exactly wrong for something his size. Low, deep, the kind of growl that should come from a throat twice as big, the kind of sound that makes the hair on your arm stand up, even when you know it's coming from something you could theoretically step on. The bandaged hunter breaks first. He runs, straight into the eastern passage, straight toward whatever killed their third squad member, straight out of this story. The leader holds her ground for maybe 3 more seconds. Then she follows him. Seung-hyun watches them go, and when the last echo of their footsteps fades, he turns and limps back toward the lower tunnels. 2 scouts with bad intel aren't going to stop Corona, but they're going to slow the advance down, and right now, that's the best he can. He makes it back to Rex's den before his mana bottoms out, collapses on the dried moss near the pool, and sleeps for the first time since he died. He wakes to the sound of water dripping on stone and the taste of copper in his mouth. His mana's back up to maybe 60%. Not full, but enough to move, enough to fight, enough to do what comes next. The amber pool in Rex's den still glows with that soft liquid light, and the Alpha is nowhere to be seen. Seung-hyun stretches his forelegs and feels the pull of healing muscle where the cracked ribs were. Still tender, but the pool did its work. He drinks once more before leaving. Mana jumps to 70. The warmth spreading through his chest like a shot of something strong, and then he's on his paws and moving. The Wormhide map is still up there, still tucked in the stone fold at the edge of the black pool. He needs it, because the map showed more than just the Viper's Grove. He remembers that spiral pattern rearranging itself, the ink crawling, the faint blue glow. There were other marks on that hide, other destinations, and one of them looked a whole lot like a shrine. Back through the tunnels he goes, past the chamber where he scared off those 2 scouts, past the spot where he collapsed from exhaustion. Blair's quiet now, too quiet. Even the lizard man at the pool has moved on, and the enforcers who gave him trouble before are keeping their distance now that Rex has basically vouched for him. Our boy climbs the steep tunnel, jaw tight against the ache in his ribs. And when he reaches the chamber with the black pool, the map is right where he left it, still glowing faint blue, still wet with something that smells like iron and ozone. He clamps it in his jaws and spreads it on the stone. The lines shift under his gaze. The spiral unwinds itself and reforms into a branching pattern. 3 paths, 3 destinations, each one marked with a symbol he can somehow read, even though he's never seen them before. That's the Lord's magic, probably. Or maybe it's just the lair recognizing him as something that belongs here now. The first symbol pulses, a fang. That's the Viper's Grove, already cleared. The second symbol, a wolf's head, Rex's den, where he just came from. The third symbol, a circle with a flame at its center, and that one glows brighter than the rest. Elemental Shrine. He doesn't know how he knows the name, but the knowledge is there, lodged in his skull like a splinter. Guess what? That's exactly where he's going. He follows the map's pull through a tunnel he hasn't explored yet, narrower than the others, sloping downward at an angle that makes his paws skid on loose scree. The walls change as he descends, smooth stone giving way to volcanic rock, black and glassy, shot through with veins of something that glows dull orange, like embers in a dying fire. The temperature rises. His fur starts to mat with sweat. He's been walking for maybe 20 minutes when the tunnel opens out into a chamber that takes his breath away. It's a cathedral of fire and stone. Geysers of steam vent from cracks in the floor, and pools of magma bubble in stone basins carved into the walls. And at the center of it all stands a structure that can only be the shrine. A raised dais of obsidian, maybe 10 feet across, ringed by 4 pillars of black stone. Each pillar is carved with a different element: flame, water, earth, wind. The carvings move, actual, literal movement. The flame flickers, the water ripples, the earth shifts, the wind spirals. Between the pillars, suspended in midair, floats a crystal about the size of his head. It pulses with a light that shifts through colors he doesn't have names for. Our boy approaches slowly. His instincts, the wolf ones, the ones that have been growing stronger since he woke up in this body, are screaming at him to turn back. This place is dangerous. This place was built by something old and powerful, and not remotely friendly. But his human mind, the part that's still Ma Seung-hyun, the part that remembers Shin Woo-jin's knife sliding between his ribs, looks at that crystal and sees a weapon. He steps onto the dais. The pillars flare. Flame roars up to the ceiling. Water sheets down in a curtain. Earth rumbles under his paws. Wind howls through the chamber hard enough to flatten his ears against his skull. And the crystal speaks. Not in words, not exactly. Broadcasts a question directly into his mind. A pressure behind his eyes that resolves into meaning. What do you seek? Seung-hyun doesn't hesitate. He thinks about Corona's party somewhere in the tunnels above him, about Woo-jin's smug face, about Yoo-jung's hands steady on a wound she helped create. He thinks about what it's going to take to kill them all. Power, he answers. The crystal pulses once. Then the world goes white. He's somewhere else now. A void, featureless and infinite, stretching in every direction. And standing in front of him is himself. Not the wolf cub, the human. Ma Seung-hyun, S-rank hunter, wearing the armor he died in, dragon fang still sheathed at his hip. The reflection smiles. It asks if he really thinks he's worthy. It asks what makes him different from every other creature that's crawled through this lair looking for a shortcut. It asks him why he deserves the shrine's gift. Seung-hyun feels his wolf body bristle. The human version of him is just standing there, arms crossed, waiting. And he knows, somehow, the way he knows the shrine's name. The way he knew the map would lead him here. That this is the test. Shrine doesn't just hand out power, it judges. He has to prove he's worthy of whatever it's offering. So he shows it. He doesn't have words in this form, but the void doesn't need words. It reads his intent, his memories, the scarred over places where his human life used to be. It sees Woo-jin's betrayal. It sees the moment Dragonfang slid through his back and out his chest. It sees the reincarnation scroll burning in his hand, the desperate gamble, the vow of revenge he made with his last human breath. It sees everything he's lost, Yoo-jung's face fading from his memory, piece by piece, every time he absorbs a core. And it sees what he's willing to lose. The reflection's smile fades. It looks at him differently now, not mocking, but measuring. It says maybe he does have what it takes. Then it raises one hand, and the void shatters. He's back on the dais. The crystal is spinning slowly, faster and faster, colors bleeding into each other until it's just a blur of white light. And the pillars are feeding it. Flame, water, earth, wind. All 4 elements streaming into the crystal like tributaries feeding a river. The pressure in his skull builds to something unbearable. His vision swims. His legs buckle. He's on his knees on the obsidian, head bowed, every nerve in his body screaming as the shrine's power floods through him. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stops. The crystal goes dark. The pillars dim. The chamber is quiet again, except for the hiss of steam and the distant rumble of magma. Seung-hyun gets to his pause. He feels different, lighter somehow, stronger. He checks his status window. Still there, still functional. Still a weird overlay of game mechanics on a body that definitely isn't playing a game. And sees what the shrine gave him. Elemental infusion. F-rank. But only because he's still an F-rank creature. The skill lets him channel elemental energy into his existing abilities. Stone Skin, infused with earth magic, hits harder and holds longer. Shadow Step, infused with wind, covers more distance. And Viper Fang, infused with fire? That's a nightmare he can't wait to test on something. Degradation penalty applies, of course. It always does. But even at 70% effectiveness, this is a multiplier. This is the kind of skill that turns a nuisance into a threat. This is the kind of skill that kills S-rank hunters. He turns to leave the shrine, and a voice rumbles through the chamber. Not the crystal this time. The Lord. No Taeho's presence fills the room without him actually being there. A pressure on the air like the moment before a thunderstorm. He says the cub has done well. He says the shrine rarely accepts anyone on the first attempt. He says he's watching, and then he's gone. And the chamber is just a chamber again, and Seung-hyun is alone with his new power and the weight of what just happened. He doesn't waste time. Corona is still up there. The scouts he's scared off are probably regrouping with the main force right now. Every minute he spends in awe of his own upgrade is a minute Wu Jin gets closer. He runs. Back through the volcanic tunnels, back past the black pool, back toward the upper levels where the air is cooler, and the stone is limestone instead of obsidian. His mana's holding steady at around 40%. Enough for a fight. Enough for what he has planned. The map shows him a route that bypasses the main tunnels, a side passage that opens onto a ledge overlooking the chamber where Corona is setting up camp. He takes it, and when he reaches the ledge, he sees them. They're in the chamber where he confronted the scouts, but they've spread out now, setting up lanterns and bedrolls and a perimeter of detection wards. Wu Jin is at the center, giving orders, radiating that easy confidence that made everyone trust him back when Seung-hyun was still alive enough to be fooled. Hyun-soo is hauling supplies, Se-ra is checking the wards, and Yu-jung is sitting apart from the rest, her healer's kit open in her lap, staring at nothing. She looks tired. She looks sad. Seung-hyun feels something twist in his chest before he shoves it down. He doesn't have time for that. He doesn't have the memories for that, literally, thanks to the cores he's been eating. What he has is a plan. The supplies are stacked near the edge of the camp, maybe 20 feet from the nearest ward. Rations, water, potions, spare equipment. Everything a party needs to survive a long dungeon dive. And Viper Fang, even at 70% effectiveness, produces enough venom to kill a grown man in under an hour. He doesn't need to kill them all. Not yet. He just needs to make them weak, sick, slow. The kind of slow that gets you killed when you're 6 hours from the surface and the monsters are getting bolder. He activates Shadow Step and teleports down from the ledge. The shadows near the supply cache are deep enough to hide him, just barely. And he lands without a sound. His heart is pounding. If one of them turns around, if Se-ra's wards catch him, if Wu Jin so much as glances in this direction, he's dead. No second chances this time. No resurrection scroll. Just teeth and venom and a body that's still small enough to step on. He creeps forward. Cache is a pile of leather packs and wooden crates, and the rations are in a sealed box near the bottom. They're smart enough to keep their food protected, but they're not smart enough to seal their water individually. 4 large canteens sitting in an open crate, caps loosened for easy access. Our boy bares his fangs. The green glow is faint, barely visible, and he positions himself so his body blocks the light. 1 bite, a drop of venom in each canteen. Not enough to taste, definitely enough to work. He's done in under 30 seconds. Then he's back in the shadows, back on the ledge, back in the tunnel before anyone even looks up. He doesn't stick around to watch them drink. That would be satisfying, sure, but it would also be stupid. He's learned a lot of things since he died. How to hunt, how to kill, how to fight things twice his size. But the most important lesson is the one his human life never taught him. Patience. The poison will work in about 2 hours. They'll start feeling it as a headache first, then nausea, then muscle weakness. Hyun-soo will last the longest, thanks to his tank build and his ridiculous constitution. Se-ra and Yu-jung will go down faster. And Wu Jin? Wu Jin has God's heart now. Poison might slow him down, but it won't kill him. That's fine. Seung-hyun doesn't need it to kill him. He just needs it to level the playing field. He's halfway back to the lower tunnels when he hears the shout. It's muffled by distance and stone, but he knows that voice. Se-ra. She's found the bodies. Not the scouts he scared off. Those 2 are probably still running, but the third one. The one who took the Eastern Passage alone. Seung-hyun doesn't know what happened to him, but from the tone of Se-ra's voice, it wasn't good. Good. Let them be scared. Let them be paranoid. Let them waste time searching every shadow and checking every corner while the poison works its way through their veins. He's got about 5 hours until the rendezvous. Maybe less if Wu Jin decides to pull out early. That's 5 hours to get stronger. 5 hours to prepare. 5 hours to turn this lair into a killing ground. He reaches Rex's den and finds the Alpha waiting for him. Rex is standing near the amber pool, ears forward, tail still. He makes a sound that's somewhere between a growl and a question. Seung-hyun meets his eyes. He doesn't have words, but he has the memory of what he just did. And Rex, whatever the Alpha is, however much he understands, seems to read it in his posture. The big wolf turns and walks toward the tunnel that leads deeper into the lair. He looks back once. Seung-hyun follows. They descend together into a part of the lair the map never showed him. A place where the walls are covered in claw marks, older than the Abyssal Lord himself. Where the air smells like ozone and ancient magic. Where something vast and patient is waiting in the dark. And our boy, still bleeding from the shrine's gift, still tasting copper and venom, follows the Alpha into the deep. The tunnel opens into a cavern that should not exist. Seung-hyun stops cold. 4 paws planted on stone that hums under his pads. The walls here are not rock. There's something older. Something that remembers being pressed into shape by a world still forming. Rex walks a few paces ahead and waits. his silver-streaked fur flickering in the blue light that seeps from veins in the walls. The air tastes like a thunderstorm that hasn't broken yet. Our boy forces his legs to move again. He's been following the Alpha for 20 minutes, and he still has no idea where they're going. But he knows one thing. Whatever lives in this part of the lair is big enough to leave claw marks in obsidian. Marks that the Abyssal Lord didn't make. Marks that predate the boss monster who rules this entire dungeon with something close to indifference. Rex turns his scarred muzzle and exhales. The sound is deliberate, almost like a human clearing their throat. Seung-hyun meets those violet eyes and understands. This is not a guided tour. This is a test. The Alpha wants to see if the cub who killed a Viper matriarch can keep his nerve when the walls themselves feel like a throat about to swallow. And Seung-hyun, still bleeding internally from the shrine's gift, still tasting copper and venom, doesn't hesitate. He steps forward. The cavern floor slopes downward, smooth as polished glass, and the blue veins in the walls pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. Ahead, a sound. Low, steady, like breathing but too slow for any creature he's ever hunted. He follows Rex into the throat of the deep, and then, just as suddenly as the journey began, it ends. A dead drop. The floor vanishes into a chasm so deep the blue light doesn't reach the bottom. Across the gap, a ledge. And on that ledge, a tunnel. Rex sits down, tail curling around his paws, and gives Seung-hyun a look that says everything. You wanted power. Figure this out. Our boy peers over the edge. The chasm drops maybe 500 feet into blackness, filled with the sound of moving water. Or something that isn't water. The gap to the ledge is 30 feet. Shadow step, at 70% effectiveness, maxes out around 10. He's not making that jump without a plan. And the plan forms fast, because he's been paying attention. The walls here pulse with magic. Elemental energy so concentrated, it's bleeding into the stone. He hasn't forgotten the shrine's gift. Elemental infusion. Wind, specifically, channeled into Shadow Step. He backs up, activates Stone Skin, and feels the weight settle into his bones. Then he pulls on the wind essence that's been humming in his chest since the crystal asked him what he sought. His fur prickles. The shadows around his paws stretch. Rex watches. One breath. Seung-hyun runs straight at the edge and teleports. Mid-air, the wind infusion catches him. Instead of 10 feet, he crosses 25. Not enough to land clean, but enough to slam into the ledge face with his front paws scrambling over the lip. He claws his way up, stone skin chipping against the obsidian, and rolls onto solid ground. His mana drops to 30%. His ribs scream. He lies there for 3 heartbeats, panting, the ceiling swimming above him. Then Rex lands behind him with a sound that is not a teleport. It's a jump, pure muscle and confidence. The Alpha didn't need a trick. Seung-hyun gets to his feet and glares at the big wolf, who looks entirely too satisfied. Yeah, message received. Still got a long way to go. The tunnel on this side smells different. Not ozone and old magic anymore. Stone dust, minerals, kind of air that means you're close to the surface. Seung-hyun's ears swivel forward. He knows this part of the lair, or he's been under it anyway. Rex turns and nudges his shoulder with that massive, scarred head. It's a push, a direction, and a dismissal all at once. The Alpha has brought him as far as he intends to go. Whatever happens next is on Seung-hyun. Our boy gives Rex a look. Thanks for the tour. Try not to die. And then he's moving. Shadow Step carries him through the dark in short bursts. Each teleport draining mana, but covering ground fast. He surfaces into a familiar corridor, the same one he used to reach Rex's den. And up ahead, voices. Human voices, strained and sharp. He creeps forward on silent pads, belly low, ears tracking every word. It's Corona. They've moved. He finds the vantage point inside 30 seconds. A narrow cleft in the tunnel wall, just wide enough for his small body, overlooking a junction chamber. And there they are. Woojin is standing in the center, arms crossed, expression calm in that way that means he's furious. Yoo-jung is beside him, her healer's kit open, face pale. Hyun-soo is hauling a crate on one shoulder like it weighs nothing, but his movements are slower than they should be. Se-ra is leaning against a stalagmite, rubbing her temples. Guess what hit them early? The venom. Seung-hyun watches Woojin take a canteen from Hyun-soo, drink, and hand it back without a single tremor in his fingers. God's heart is doing its job. But the others? Hyun-soo blinks too often. Se-ra's wards flicker, just for a second, like her concentration is slipping. Yoo-jung's hands shake when she closes the kit, and she hasn't touched her water. Smart girl. Maybe she just doesn't feel like drinking when her gut is telling her something is deeply wrong. Woojin's voice carries through the chamber, flat and impatient. He says they don't have time to search every shadow. The scout who killed the patrol isn't a monster. He says it with such certainty that Seung-hyun feels his hackles rise. The bastard knows something. Or suspects. Sera argues that leaving a threat behind them is suicide. Hyun-soo says nothing, just sets the crate down a little too hard. Woo-jin makes a decision. He tells them to move. Double time through the Eastern Passage, straight to the rendezvous point. And if the scout who killed the patrol tries anything, they'll deal with it together. Together. One big, happy party. Seung-hyun's lips pull back from his teeth. Yeah, not happening. Doesn't have much time. The Eastern Passage runs from this junction chamber through a series of narrow switchbacks carved into unstable stone. Seung-hyun knows it because he passed it on his way to Rex's den. The ceiling there is fractured, held up by 3 natural pillars of compressed limestone and old magma. One of those pillars is already cracked. He saw it. He just didn't have a reason to care about it until now. Our boy knows exactly what he's going to do. He slips back into the dark, runs harder than he's run since the Viper Grove, and reaches the eastern switchback with 3 minutes to spare. The pillar is there, thick as a man's torso, webbed with stress fractures that glow faintly in the dungeon's ambient light. Seung-hyun activates Stone Skin. Then he channels every scrap of earth element the shrine gave him into his bones. The infusion hits like a hammer. His fur turns gray, dense, heavy enough to crack the floor under his paws. He rears up on his hind legs and slams both forepaws into the pillar's weakest point. The crack widens. A second hit. A third. Stone shrieks, and then the pillar splinters. The ceiling comes down in a roar of falling rock and collapsing dust. Seung-hyun, shadow steps backward as the switchback fills with rubble, stone on stone on stone. The passage splitting in 2 distinct directions. When the dust clears, the eastern route is sealed. But the avalanche didn't just block the tunnel. It cut it precisely where Woo-jin's party was strung out along the corridor. Seung-hyun lands on a high ledge and looks down. Half the party is on the far side of the collapse. Woo-jin and Yoo-jung, separated. On this side, Hyun-soo and Sera, the tank and the mage, coughing dust, eyes wide, cut off from their leader and their healer. And our boy? Our boy is already moving. Doesn't give them time to regroup. Hyun-soo is on his feet first, shield up, scanning the rubble for threats. The poison is dragging at him, but his tank build is too stubborn to quit. Sera pushes herself off the ground, one hand glowing with arcane energy, her wards flickering as she tries to raise a barrier. She's fast, but not fast enough. Seung-hyun's shadow steps directly behind Hyun-soo, inside his blind spot, and sinks Viper Fang into the back of the tank's exposed calf. The venom, even at 70%, hits a weakened body like a freight train. Hyun-soo roars, spins, swings his shield in a wide arc that would crush Seung-hyun's skull if it connected. Our boy teleports again before the shield is halfway through the swing. He lands on Hyun-soo's shoulder, fangs glowing green, and drives them into the gap between helmet and gorget. Right into the neck. The tank drops to one knee. Sera screams something, maybe his name, maybe a spell, and a bolt of raw arcane energy tears through the space where Seung-hyun was standing, and instant ago. Close. Too close. His mana is at 18%. One more shadow step is all he's got before he's running on fumes. He doesn't waste it. He rolls under the falling tank's body, kicks off the stone floor, and lunges at Sera from the side where her barrier is weakest. She turns. Her eyes find him, and he sees the moment she recognizes what he is. Not a random monster, not a dungeon predator, a shadow wolf. The same species as the cub the Abyssal Lord claimed as his own. Her brain makes the connection half a second too late. Seung-hyun activates Stone Skin, earth-infused, and tackles her leg at full speed. Bone cracks. She goes down. He doesn't give her time to cast. He's on her chest in a heartbeat, fangs bared, venom dripping onto her robes. And this time, there's no hesitation. He bites down. The kill is quick. He couldn't say why he makes it quick. Maybe because she never mocked him in the old life. Maybe because she's already dead anyway. Poison and shock doing half the work before he ever touched her. Or maybe some part of him still remembers being human enough to hate himself for what he's doing. It doesn't matter. She died. And Seung-hyun tears the core from her chest before her body has finished cooling. The orb is blue-white, pulsing with arcane energy, warm as a beating heart. He swallows it whole. Skill absorption triggers. Familiar burn spreads through his veins, followed by the ice pick sensation of a memory being peeled away from his consciousness. This time, it takes a strategy meeting. 6 months before the betrayal, Corona gathered in a rented war room to plan the S-rank Chimera raid. Sera drew the map. Hyun-soo cracked a stupid joke. Woo-jin laughed. Yoo-jung sat next to Seung-hyun, her knee touching his under the table. The whole thing is gone before his next breath. In its place, a new skill settles into his mind. Arcane Bolt, D rank. A searing projectile of concentrated magical energy. He can cast it without a staff, without a chant, without anything except will and mana. 70% effectiveness, because that's the deal. It's still more firepower than he's ever had. Hyun-soo isn't dead yet. The tank is bleeding out on the stone floor. One hand clamped to his neck, the other still gripping his shield. He's trying to speak. Seung-hyun can't tell if it's a curse or a prayer. He doesn't care. He crosses to the man who hauled crates and followed orders and never once asked if the person they were chasing deserved to die. He puts a paw on Hyun-soo's chest. The tank's eyes focus. He sees Seung-hyun. He sees a wolf. And somewhere deep in that poison-fogged brain, he must feel it. The weight of the old team captain staring back at him through a monster's eyes. Because he stops trying to talk. He just watches. Seung-hyun bites down on the neck wound he already made and holds. 20 seconds later, the heart stops. He pulls the core free. This one is deep red, heavy, dense as iron. When he swallows it, the heat is immediate. Skill absorption triggers again. The memory that goes is the victory feast after the Griffin raid. Everyone drunk, everyone laughing. Hyun-soo carrying Seung-hyun on his shoulders while the whole guild cheered. Gone. The new skill hits like a collapsing wall. Stone skin evolves. It's not F rank anymore. It's D rank. Iron carapace. 70% effectiveness still applies, but the base power is so much higher that the degradation barely matters. His fur darkens. His bones harden. When he flexes his claws, they leave grooves in the stone. He stands over two bodies that used to be his guildmates and feels nothing. Or he tells himself it's nothing. The truth is, he can't remember enough to feel anything. The faces are already blurring. The names are just names. He has a mission, a goal carved into his consciousness deeper than memory. Destroy Corona, kill Wu Jin, take back what was stolen. He's 2 steps closer. From the other side of the rock slide, a voice. Wu Jin, not panicked, not grieving, angry, cold. He says her name, Sarah, then Hyun-soo. And when no one answers, he says one more word, quiet, flat. A name Seung-hyun hasn't heard spoken aloud since the night he died. His old name. His human name, Ma Seung-hyun. The cub who just tore through 2 S-rank hunters freezes in the dark, blood still dripping from his muzzle, and feels his heart, the second one, the one he stole, skip a beat. Wu Jin knows. He doesn't know how. He doesn't need to know. He just said the name like a promise, like a threat, like a man who has just confirmed a suspicion he's been nursing for hours. The rock slide shifts. Something is moving on the other side. God's heart, pumping enough power into Wu Jin's body to start clearing rubble one boulder at a time. Seung-hyun doesn't wait to see how fast he works. He turns and runs into the dark, iron carapace gleaming under his fur, arcane bolt humming at the back of his throat, leaves the dead where they fell. Rex is waiting for him at the junction with the amber pool. The alpha says nothing, just falls into step beside the cub who is not quite a cub anymore, not quite a monster, and definitely not the human who used to wear this soul. And somewhere above them, deeper than the stone and older than the claw marks, the Abyssal Lord opens an eye that hasn't been opened in a very long time. He smiles. The cub is ready. The hunt begins. Seung-hyun doesn't get far before the voice stops him. Not Rex, not a scout, the Abyssal Lord himself. His voice comes from everywhere at once, like the stone itself has learned to speak. He tells the cub to come to the throne room. Right now, Seung-hyun's blood goes cold. Rex flattens his ears and drops his head. The alpha who could rip a B-rank hunter in half looks terrified. Our boy doesn't argue. He follows the pull in his chest, the invisible thread that's been there since the day he woke up in this body. The walk takes 20 minutes. The tunnels get wider. The claw marks on the walls get deeper. And the air gets heavier, thick with something that isn't quite mana and isn't quite fear. The throne room isn't what he expected. There's no throne, just a cavern the size of a cathedral, lit by veins of blue light that pulse like a heartbeat in the walls. In the center, a raised platform of obsidian, and on it, No Tae-ho. Not the shadow he usually appears as. Not the voice from everywhere. His real body. The Abyssal Lord is smaller than Seung-hyun imagined. Maybe 8 feet at the shoulder, fur the color of a bruise, eyes that hold more colors than the shrine crystal. But it's the scars that stop him. They cover every inch of visible skin. Old wounds, healed wrong, layered over each other like a tapestry of violence. Some of them are human-shaped. Sword cuts, spear punctures, the distinctive burn pattern of a holy mage's smite. No Tae-ho was hunted for a very long time. The Lord says he knows what Seung-hyun is thinking. He says everyone thinks it. A monster born in the dark, ancient and unknowable. But the truth is simpler. He was human once. The cub's ears shoot forward. Guess what happens next? The Lord tells him to sit. He says this is not a punishment. This is the beginning of the test that matters. Seung-hyun sits. The Lord begins. 400 years ago, No Tae-ho was an S-rank hunter. Not just any hunter, the leader of the first guild to ever clear an S-rank gate. His party was called Starfall. 5 members, each one a legend in their own right. Tank, Gwan Ho-suk, could stop a dragon's charge with his shield. The mage, Baek Sua, once froze an entire sea to trap a leviathan. The scout, Choi Min-jae, mapped every labyrinth in the gate network. And the healer. The Lord pauses here. The healer was named Kang Eun-ha. She was his Yu-jung. The word hits Seung-hyun like a physical blow. No Tae-ho says he sees the recognition in his eyes. He says every betrayed man carries the same wound. It never heals. Starfall found this lair 5 centuries ago. Back then, it wasn't a lair. It was a prison. Something older than the gates, older than the system, older than any god humans have ever named, was sealed here. The Lord doesn't say what it is. He says the seals were failing. Starfall was supposed to reinforce them. Instead, the tank got greedy. Kwon Ho-suk decided that whatever was sealed was a power source. He baited the rest of the party into the chamber. He triggered the final seal collapse. Everyone died, except No Tae-ho. The thing that was sealed didn't kill him. It offered him a deal. Become its warden. Absorb its power, hold the seal shut with his own body, and he would live forever. He would be strong enough to take revenge. He took the deal. That was 400 years ago. He killed Kwon Ho-suk 60 years later. The man was an old, terrified guildmaster by then, surrounded by protégés and bodyguards. No Tae-ho tore through all of them. He says it was the most satisfying day of his existence, and the most hollow. Because revenge didn't bring back Sua, or Min-jae, or Eun-ha. It didn't undo the thing he'd become. The Lord turns his ancient violet eyes on the cub. He says Seung-hyun is standing at the same crossroads. He says the cores, the skills, the memory erosion, it's all the same deal with a different face. The entity in the seal, the one he's been fighting for centuries, is what humans now call the Abyss. Not a place, a consciousness. Every monster core in this lair carries a fragment of its hunger. Seung-hyun has been eating it, piece by piece. That's why his power degrades. That's why he loses memories. The Abyss consumes what it touches. The Lord asks a simple question. Is he willing to become what No Tae-ho became? To win? The cub meets his eyes. He doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. No Tae-ho sees the answer written in the blood still drying on Seung-hyun's muzzle. He laughs. It's not a kind sound. He says good because the next lesson is going to hurt. The Lord rises to his full height. The blue veins in the walls flare, and shadow pours from his body like smoke from a fire, pooling on the obsidian, shaping into forms. 5 of them. 5 wolves, each one identical to Seung-hyun. Same size, same dark fur, same violet eyes. The Lord calls them shadow clones. He says they have the same skills Seung-hyun has. Every one he's absorbed since waking up in this lair. Stone Skin, Goblin's Luck, Shadow Step, Viper Fang, Elemental Infusion, Arcane Bolt, Iron Carapace. They have it all. The cub's heart drops into his stomach. The Lord says he wants Seung-hyun to fight them. Right now. No rest. No mana recovery. No mercy. The first clone lunges before the Lord finishes speaking. Seung-hyun barely dodges. Jaws snap shut where his throat was half a second ago. He activates Shadow Step, teleports 6 feet left, and immediately has to dodge again. The second clone is already there. The little traitor read his teleport. They can predict him. Of course they can. They share his instincts. Seung-hyun stops running. He goes in. Iron Carapace hardens his fur as he barrels into the nearest clone, driving his shoulder into its chest. The clone staggers. He follows up with a Viper Fang bite to the neck. Poison floods into the shadow creature's body and it dissolves. The fourth clone hits him from the side with Arcane Bolt before he can recover. The searing projectile slams into his ribs, the same ribs that were already cracked. Pain whites out his vision. He tumbles across the obsidian, skidding to a stop at the edge of the platform. 3 clones remain. They spread out, circling. Our boy is breathing hard. His mana is at maybe 10%, and his ribs are definitely broken again. He thinks about what the Lord said. Every clone has his skills, but they don't have something he has. They're not real. They're shadows shaped by magic, following the Lord's will. They don't think, they mimic. Seung-hyun tests it. He feints left with his body, while his eyes flick right. All 3 clones react to the eye movement. They're reading his tells, not his mind. That means he can lie to them. He drops his shoulder like he's going to charge. The clones brace for impact, and instead, he shadow steps. Not toward them, straight up, 10 feet above the platform. For 1 heartbeat, he hangs in the air. A wolf cub silhouetted against the blue-veined ceiling. And he channels elemental infusion into his iron carapace. Earth energy floods his body, tripling his weight. He drops like a meteor, straight onto the nearest clone's spine. The impact shatters obsidian. The clone doesn't dissolve so much as explode, shadow stuff spraying across the platform like ink. 2 left. They adapt fast. They stop reading his eyes and watch his paws instead. Smart. but too late. Seung-hyun's goblin's luck, degraded as it is, still gives him an edge. A tiny, unpredictable nudge in the right direction. He doesn't control it. He just trusts it. It's enough. The fifth clone lunges for his flank. At the exact moment the sixth fires an arcane bolt from behind. Seung-hyun doesn't dodge either attack. He activates Stone Skin, the old F-rank version he barely uses anymore, in a single patch on his left shoulder. The bolt hits that patch. It hurts like hell, but it doesn't penetrate, and the lunging clone's momentum carries it straight past him, right into the path of the bolt. The shadow creature takes its own ally's attack full in the face. It dissolves with a sound like tearing paper. One left. The last clone doesn't attack. It watches him. Its head tilts. And for the first time, Seung-hyun sees something in its violet eyes that isn't just mimicry. Recognition. This one is different. It's been learning. Every move he's made, every trick he's pulled, it's been recording. It knows everything he's shown, and it's going to use it against him. Our boy's mana gauge is basically empty. His ribs are screaming. His left shoulder is a mess of bruises and half-healed claw marks. And a copy of himself that just spent 3 minutes studying his entire combat style is standing between him and victory. Big problem. Seung-hyun has one thing the clone doesn't. He knows what he's willing to sacrifice. The clone cares about surviving the fight. Our boy doesn't. He charges. The clone braces, fangs out, arcane bolt already glowing at the back of its throat. Seung-hyun doesn't slow down. He doesn't activate Iron Carapace, doesn't channel Elemental Infusion, doesn't use Viper Fang or Shadow Step. He just runs. Straight into the clone's jaws. The clone bites down on his right foreleg. Teeth sink through fur, through skin, crunch against bone. Agony detonates up his entire limb. But the clone is committed. Its mouth is full of his leg, which means it can't dodge. Seung-hyun brings his left paw, claws extended, Iron Carapace concentrated into a single strike. He doesn't go for the throat. He goes for the skull, right between the eyes. The clone's head caves in. It dissolves with a wet pop, and Seung-hyun collapses onto the cracked obsidian. Right foreleg a mangled mess, ribs screaming. Mana flickering at 3%. He won. No Taeho says nothing for a long moment. The blue light in the walls dims, then steadies, as if the lair itself is exhaling. Then the Lord steps down from his platform. He approaches the cub, each pawfall shaking the obsidian. He stops inches from Seung-hyun's face. He says he's been testing wolves for 4 centuries, looking for one that could survive that trial. 14 have tried. Seung-hyun is the first to win. The Lord lowers his head. He touches his nose to the cub's forehead, and something vast and cold and impossibly old flows through the contact. Not a skill, not mana, a secret. Seung-hyun's mind floods with images. Seal, deep below the lair. A door made of something that isn't matter and isn't magic, held shut by the Lord's own life force. The abyss behind it. A hunger so absolute that light dies within arm's reach of the seal. Starfall. 5 hunters in golden armor, walking into the chamber with weapons drawn. Gwan Ho-suk's treacherous smile, the seal cracking. The other 3 hunters falling, one by one, their souls ripped out and consumed. And no Taeho alone, making the same choice Seung-hyun has been making over and over. Power, at any cost. The Lord pulls back. His eyes are wet. He says the reason he cares about Seung-hyun's revenge is not because it's entertaining, it's because it's his revenge too. Every Monster King was made, not born. Every betrayal in this world echoes the first one. And if Seung-hyun wants to destroy Woojin, he needs to understand what he's really fighting. God's heart is not a skill. It's a fragment of the abyss. The same entity sealed beneath this lair. Shin Woojin didn't just steal Seung-hyun's power. He made a deal with the thing that wants to eat the world. The Lord says this is the final lesson, the one he couldn't teach until Seung-hyun proved he could survive it. He says the cub's body is already half made of abyss stuff, thanks to every core he's absorbed. That's why the memory erosion happens. That's why his skills degrade. The abyss takes. But it can also be made to give. The Lord says there's a technique, an old one, older than the system, older than the gates. He learned it during his first year as the Seal's warden. It's called Abyssal Strike. It lets you channel the hunger itself into an attack, lets you turn the consumption instinct into a weapon. But learning it means surrendering to the abyss in a controlled way, letting it in, without letting it win. The Lord asks if Seung-hyun is willing to try. Our boy, lying broken and bleeding on the obsidian, right foreleg a mess of tooth marks, mana flickering like a dying candle, looks up at the monster who was once a man, who was once a hero. He doesn't nod. He just closes his eyes. Enough of an answer. The Lord places his paw on Seung-hyun's chest, over the heart that isn't his. He says to breathe, and then the world goes away. Seung-hyun opens his eyes somewhere that isn't the lair. It's a void, black, but not empty. Something moves in the darkness. Coils of hunger that press against his mind like hands against a window. The Abyss speaks without words, asks what he wants. He tells it power. It asks what he'll give. He tells it nothing. It laughs. It says everything gives something, even him. Even now, Seung-hyun thinks of the memories he's already lost. The first date with Yoo-jung, her laugh in a coffee shop, her sister's name, a team dinner after a raid he can't picture anymore. He thinks of the memories he still has. Her face, her voice calling him Cap, her hands, steady on his wound, in a dungeon he can still half remember. The betrayal, the knife, the scroll burning in his chest as his heart stopped. He tells the Abyss to take what it wants. He's already paying. The hunger surges, and a new skill burns its way into his consciousness. Abyssal Strike, S rank. A single attack that channels pure consumption, that unmakes whatever it touches. No degradation, no 70%. The cost is already paid. In years of memory, he won't get back. Seung-hyun opens his eyes on the obsidian. The Lord is still standing over him. He asks if it worked. Our boy lifts his left paw, the one that's still functional. He focuses, and the air around his claws goes wrong. Light bends. Sound dampens. A faint, impossible darkness, like a hole punched in reality, flickers around his paw for one heartbeat before guttering out. His mana is at 0, but the skill is there. Real. Waiting. No Taeho smiles. He says the cub is ready. He says Woojin has no idea what's coming for him. And then the Lord's expression changes. His ears flatten, his fur bristles. Every vein of blue light in the walls flares white. The lair is under attack. The guild has found the gate. The Lord doesn't wait for questions. He turns toward the cavern entrance, all 8 feet of him suddenly vibrating with a tension that makes the walls hum. And our boy, still bleeding on the obsidian, right foreleg barely functional, mana at 3%, understands one thing immediately. The fight is already here. Stay behind me. Taeho's voice isn't a request. It's the kind of command that 4 centuries of being the most dangerous thing in a world full of dangerous things ingrains into your vocal cords. Seung-hyun tries to stand. His right foreleg buckles. He catches himself on his left shoulder, the bruised one, and a yelp tears out of his throat before he can stop it. Not his proudest moment, but he's standing. The Lord glances back, those multicolored eyes flicking over the cub's wrecked body with something that might be approval or might be pity. Hard to tell with a monster. You can't fight like that. No kidding. But Seung-hyun doesn't say that, just limps forward, one agonizing step at a time, and follows the Abyssal Lord toward the sound of screaming. The gate chamber is chaos. The gate itself is a 20-foot arch of black stone, carved with runes that predate human civilization, glowing with the same blue light that pulses through the lair's veins. It's supposed to be sealed. It's supposed to be impenetrable. Right now, it's got a crack running down the center, big enough to drive a truck through, and through that crack, they're pouring in. Hunters. Dozens of them. Not S rank. Taeho would already be fighting if they were S rank, but organized, disciplined, wearing the colors of 3 different guilds. Corona's gold and white, Black Fang's crimson and black. Something Seung-hyun doesn't recognize. Gray cloaks, faceless masks, moving with the kind of precision that screams military training. The guilds have allied. That's bad. That's very bad. The Lord doesn't slow down. He hits the first line of hunters like a meteor, and 3 men in Black Fang colors simply cease to exist. Not killed. Unmade. Bodies, armor, weapons, all reduced to something that isn't even ash. A fine gray dust that hangs in the air for a heartbeat before the cavern's wind scatters it. The gray cloaks don't flinch. They spread out, chanting something under their breath, and Seung-hyun feels the shift in the mana currents before he sees it. They're summoners, and they're working together. The air above the gate rips open. Not a crack this time, a wound. And something crawls through it that makes the shadow wolves look like puppies. It's a gatekeeper. 25 feet of twisted flesh and too many limbs. Its body a patchwork of monsters, stitched together with magic that stinks of old blood and desperation. Its eyes, all 17 of them, lock onto the Abyssal Lord. And it screams. The sound hits Seung-hyun like a physical blow. His ears flatten against his skull. His teeth ache, but he's already moving, limping along the edge of the chamber, using the chaos as cover. The Lord told him to stay behind. The Lord also told him Woojin has no idea what's coming. And right now what's coming is a half-dead cub with an SS rank skill and a grudge. He just needs to survive long enough to use it. The summoners are positioned on a raised ledge near the gate, 12 of them in a circle. They're chanting, feeding the gatekeeper's form. Seung-hyun can see the lead summoner, taller than the rest, gray cloak trimmed with silver thread, a staff in his left hand that pulses with the same wrong light as the abyss. This guy is the anchor. If he dies, the gatekeeper loses its tether. And if the gatekeeper loses its tether, it goes berserk and attacks everything in sight, which includes the hunters. Seung-hyun grins. his wolf's mouth pulling back in an expression that would terrify anyone who knew what it meant. He starts climbing. The ledge isn't high, 15 feet, maybe 20, but with erect foreleg and ribs that feel like they're held together with spite. It might as well be a mountain. He digs his claws into the stone, one paw at a time. His right foreleg screams every time he puts weight on it. He ignores it. The Abyssal Lord is fighting the gatekeeper now, and the sound of that battle is the kind of thing that makes grown men weep. Stone shatters. The blue veins in the walls flare white-hot and then dim. Seung-hyun pulls himself onto the ledge, panting, his mana flickering at 2%. The summoners don't notice him. They're too focused on the fight. They're chanting rising and falling, like a tide of corruption. The lead summoner is right there, 10 feet away, his back to a half-dead shadow wolf cub with nothing left to lose. Bad positioning. Really bad positioning. Seung-hyun doesn't announce himself. He doesn't growl, doesn't posture, doesn't give the guy a chance to turn around and do something heroic. He just lunges. His left paw catches the summoner's ankle, and Viper Fang delivers its payload at 70% effectiveness. The man screams. The chanting breaks, and the gatekeeper, suddenly untethered, swings one of its 17 limbs at the nearest thing it can find, which happens to be a cluster of Black Fang hunters. They don't even have time to run. The summoner is still screaming, poison working its way through his veins. And Seung-hyun doesn't wait for him to die. He bites down on the man's throat and pulls. Blood, heat, and then silence. The gray cloaks are scattering, their formation shattered, their anchor dead. Seung-hyun stands over the body, his muzzle dripping red, and feels the familiar pull. The core. It's sitting in the summoner's chest, pulsing with a sickly yellow light. And Seung-hyun knows what he's about to lose. He doesn't hesitate. He eats it. The world tears in half. Skill absorption activates, and the memory that burns away this time is a bad one. His first failed raid. A B-rank dungeon outside Seoul. 3 party members dead because he'd been too proud to retreat. It's almost a relief to lose it. The skill that replaces it is Summon Familiar. A rank. 70% effectiveness. Seung-hyun can feel it settle into his consciousness, a new tool in his arsenal. And for a moment he just stands there, breathing, bleeding, and wondering how much of himself will be left when this is over. Then the gatekeeper roars, and he remembers that the fight isn't finished. He turns toward the chaos. The Abyssal Lord has the creature pinned, one massive paw holding down 3 of its limbs, while the other claws open its chest cavity. But the gatekeeper isn't dying. It's regenerating. The summoner's ritual might be broken, but the gatekeeper is still tethered to something. The gate. The crack is wider now, and through it, Seung-hyun can see more hunters massing on the other side. This isn't just a breach, it's an invasion. And if the gate stays open, they'll lose the lair. Seung-hyun limps toward the Lord, his new skill humming in the back of his mind. And he knows what he has to do. Summon Familiar. The skill activates with a pull on his already depleted mana, and the air beside him rips open in a mockery of the gate above. What steps through isn't what he expected. It's a wolf, made of shadow and smoke and something that might be starlight, its body shifting like the darkness between worlds. Its eyes are the same blue as the veins in the lair's walls, and it's twice the size of Rex. The Familiar looks at him, then at the gatekeeper, then back at him. It doesn't speak, but Seung-hyun gets the message anyway. He sends it into the fight. The Shadow Wolf hits the gatekeeper like a freight train. The Abyssal Lord uses the distraction to rip one of the creature's 17 limbs clean off. Seung-hyun is running out of time. His mana is at 1%. His body is shutting down. And then one of the gray cloaks, the ones who scattered, pulls a knife from his belt and charges. Not at Seung-hyun, at the Lord. The man is screaming something about glory and sacrifice, and his body is glowing with the unmistakable light of a suicide. Seung-hyun doesn't think. He moves. Shadow Step activates, carrying him 6 feet across the chamber, and he slams into the gray cloak's legs just as the room detonates. The world goes white, heat, force, pain, and then nothing. He wakes up in water, not the black pool from before. This is warm, golden, faintly glowing, and every nerve in his body is screaming with the kind of pain that means he's still alive. Barely. He tries to move. His right foreleg doesn't respond. His ribs are definitely broken again. His left eye is swollen shut. But he's breathing. The water is healing him. He can feel it, the regeneration working its way through his body, knitting bone and closing wounds, and refilling his mana reserves with agonizing slowness. This is the healing fountain. The one the Lord mentioned, back when Seung-hyun was still just a curious cub exploring the lair. He'd never found it. The Lord had clearly been keeping it hidden until now. Seung-hyun lets his head sink back into the water and stares up at the ceiling. It's covered in the same blue veins as the rest of the lair, but here they're brighter, more alive, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Healing. He's healing. And somewhere above him, the battle is still raging. He can hear it. The gatekeeper's screams. The Abyssal Lord's roars. The clash of steel and magic and things that don't fit into either category. But he can also hear something else. His familiar. The Shadow Wolf is still fighting, still tearing into the gatekeeper, and Seung-hyun can feel its existence like a second heartbeat in his chest. It's draining his mana, what little he has left, but it's holding the line. Our boy, floating in a pool of golden light with most of his bones broken and 3 new skills burning in his consciousness, closes his eyes. He's not done. He's not even close to done. But first, he needs to heal, and then he needs to end this. The healing fountain works faster than he expects. Within minutes, or hours. Time is weird when you're floating in a magic pool. His right foreleg starts to respond. His ribs snap back into place with a series of pops that make him want to scream. His eye opens, and his mana climbs. 3%. 25. He pulls himself out of the water when he hits 40%, his fur dripping gold, and his body trembling with exhaustion that isn't quite physical. He's been awake for too long. He's absorbed too many cores. The memory erosion is starting to stack up. Gaps in his consciousness, where there used to be people and places and moments that made him who he was. But he still remembers the betrayal. He still remembers Woo Jin's face. He still remembers what he's fighting for, and that's enough. The Shadow Wolf familiar is still waiting for him at the edge of the fountain. Its starlight body flickering but intact. It doesn't say anything. It just falls into step beside him as he limps toward the sound of battle. The chamber has changed. The gate is still open, but the invasion has stalled. Hunters who made it through are dead or dying, their bodies scattered across the stone floor like broken toys. The gatekeeper is down to 8 limbs, and the Abyssal Lord is standing over its twitching body with an expression that might be victory. But it might also be regret. Seung-hyun limps to the Lord's side. No Tae-ho looks down at him. You're alive. His voice is rough, raw from roaring, and there's blood. Hunter blood. Gatekeeper blood may be his own, matted in his bruise-colored fur. Barely, Seung-hyun says. He doesn't have the vocal cords for human speech in this body. But the Lord understands anyway. 4 centuries of solitude will do that. The gate is closing. Seung-hyun looks at the crack. It's smaller now, the runes around its edges pulsing with renewed energy. The Lord is forcing it shut. But through the narrowing gap, Seung-hyun can see them. Woo Jin and Yoo-jung. They're standing on the other side, watching, their faces unreadable. Woo Jin's eyes lock onto Seung-hyun, and for a moment, there's no gate, no lair, no battle, just the two of them. The man who stole everything, and the monster who's going to take it back. The gate slams shut. The silence is deafening. The Lord slumps, his massive body trembling with exhaustion. Seung-hyun finally understands what it cost him to hold the seal and fight a gatekeeper at the same time. You need to rest, Tae-ho laughs. It's not a happy sound. I've been resting for 400 years. He looks at the gate, at the bodies, at the bloody paw prints Seung-hyun has left across the obsidian floor. This is just the beginning. And our boy, standing in the wreckage of an invasion with a familiar at his side and new power humming in his veins, knows he's right. Woo Jin saw him. Woo Jin knows he's alive. And Woo Jin is going to come back with everything he has. Seung-hyun grins. Good. Let him come. The healing fountain does its work. 40% mana climbs to 60, then 80, and Seung-hyun pulls himself out of the water with his bones whole and his mind sharper than it's been in days. He shakes the golden droplets from his fur and takes stock. His familiar is still there, starlight body flickering at the edges, but solid enough to cast a shadow. The Abyssal Lord is slumped against the sealed gate, breathing hard, and the chamber reeks of dead hunters and gatekeeper ichor. Our boy has maybe an hour before Woo Jin figures out how to punch through the seal. Maybe less. He doesn't waste it. The map comes out of his inventory, worm hide still warm and glowing faintly, and he watches the spirals rearrange themselves into something new. 3 destinations. The Viper's Grove is marked with a fang, already cleared. The Wolf's Head is Rex's den, and the circle with the flame is the Elemental Shrine, which he's already bled for. But there's a 4th mark now, one he hasn't seen before. A spiral that keeps folding in on itself, deeper and deeper, until the ink looks like it's eating its own tail. It pulses. Seung-hyun stares at it for a long moment. Then he starts walking. The tunnels change as he descends. The blue veins in the walls grow thicker, brighter, more alive, and the air starts tasting like ozone, and old stone, and something that might be blood. He passes the throne room without stopping. The obsidian platform is empty, the blue light still pulsing in time with the Lord's heartbeat somewhere above him. He passes the chamber where he fought the shadow clones, and the floor is still scored with claw marks and dried blood. His blood. He keeps moving. Map leads him to a staircase he's never seen before, cut into the floor of a dead-end tunnel, like a wound that never healed. The steps are too large for a wolf. They were made for something bigger. Seung-hyun takes them one at a time, his claws clicking on the stone. And the darkness at the bottom is the kind of darkness that doesn't care about his night vision. He steps into it anyway. The darkness swallows him whole. For 3 heartbeats, there's nothing. No sound, no light, no ground under his paws. Just the sensation of falling without moving, and the map burning cold against his teeth. Then the world snaps back into focus, and he's standing in a cavern that shouldn't exist. The ceiling is too high to see. Walls are covered in carvings that move when he isn't looking at them directly, shifting from wolves to hunters to things that don't have names. And in the center of the cavern, floating 3 feet off the ground, is a heart. It's the size of a house, made of something that's not quite flesh and not quite stone. And it beats. Once. The sound hits Seung-hyun like a physical blow. Twice. His bones ring with it. 3 times, and the heart splits open. What comes out is not a monster. It's a wolf, or something that used to be a wolf, 40 feet at the shoulder and made of the same bruise-colored fur as the Abyssal Lord. Its eyes are closed. Its breathing is slow and even, and shakes the floor. The map in Seung-hyun's jaws goes cold. This thing is the lair's heart. This thing is what the Lord has been guarding for 400 years. And it's waking up. The wolf's eyes open. They're not eyes. They're windows into somewhere else. Somewhere cold and hungry and endless. And Seung-hyun feels the abyss staring back at him through those pupils. His legs lock. His lungs forget how to work. The wolf doesn't move, doesn't speak, doesn't even blink. But Seung-hyun understands anyway. It's not a threat. It's an invitation. He takes a step forward. His familiar doesn't follow. The shadow wolf is frozen at the edge of the cavern, its starlight body flickering like a candle in a storm. And Seung-hyun can feel its fear through the bond, like ice water in his veins. He keeps walking. The wolf's breath washes over him, cold and ancient, and full of the taste of dead stars. And Seung-hyun stops 3 feet from its jaw. He's smaller than one of its teeth. He doesn't care. He meets those impossible eyes, and he doesn't look away. And the wolf does something that might be approval. The cavern dissolves. Seung-hyun is falling again, but this time, there's a destination, a pull in his chest dragging him down into the dark. And when he opens his eyes, he's back in the healing chamber. His familiar is still frozen. The map is still cold, but his level has jumped from 43 to 60 in the span of a single breath. The notification scrolls across his vision. System text burning gold. And he reads it 3 times before he believes it. 17 levels, just for looking at the thing. He laughs, a rough wheezing sound that doesn't fit in a wolf's throat, and hauls himself to his feet. He's got work to do. The lair is a graveyard now, full of dead hunters and dead monsters, and the kind of silence that only comes after a massacre. But there are survivors. He finds the first pack 3 levels up. A dozen shadow wolves huddled in a side chamber with their ears flat and their tails tucked. They're terrified. They're leaderless. And they're his. He doesn't have to speak. He just stands in the entrance, his familiar solidifying at his side, and lets them see what he's become. Level 60. A-rank familiar. Skills that crack stone and poison blood and step through shadows like their doors. The wolves drop their heads. One by one, they bare their throats. Our boy has himself an army. Rex finds him an hour later, limping out of a collapsed tunnel with 3 dead gray cloaks behind him and blood matting his alpha's mane. He stops when he sees the pack, sees Seung-hyun standing at their center, sees the familiar, twice his size, and made of starlight and hunger. Rex lowers his head. Not submission, not quite, but recognition. He knows what's coming. Seung-hyun turns and starts walking toward the surface, toward the sealed gate, toward the man who killed him and the woman who used to love him. And the pack falls in behind him. 2 dozen shadow wolves, 1 alpha, 1 familiar made of shadow and smoke, and 1 dead hunter with nothing left to lose. The gate chamber is still sealed when they arrive, but the seal is cracking. The Lord is still slumped against the obsidian arch, his bruise-colored fur slick with sweat, and his breathing rattling in his chest. But his eyes are open. He sees the pack. He sees Seung-hyun at their head. He smiles. It's not a happy expression. It's the smile of a man who's been waiting 400 years for someone to finish what he started. He says the gate won't hold. Seung-hyun says he knows. The Lord asks if he's ready. Seung-hyun looks at his pack, at his familiar, at the skills burning in his chest like banked coals, and says one word. He says yes. The gate shatters. It doesn't crack or splinter or break. It explodes. A wall of force and light and screaming runes. And Seung-hyun is already moving before the debris hits the ground. The first thing through the gate is a spell, a lance of golden light that would have cored a lesser wolf. He shadow steps through it, 6 feet to the left, his claws already lengthening, and the hunter who cast it doesn't even see him coming. Viper Fang takes him in the throat. The poison hits at 70% effectiveness, and the hunter drops like a stone, his core flickering out before he hits the floor. Seung-hyun doesn't stop to absorb it. He's already moving, his pack surging through the gate behind him, and the chamber on the other side is chaos. Hunters everywhere, corona colors, black fang sigils, gray cloaks and frantic shouts, and the kind of panic that only happens when a plan falls apart. Wu Jin is at the center of it, God's heart flaring gold in his chest, and Yu Jung is at his side with her staff raised and her face pale. She sees him. She freezes. Seung-hyun doesn't. His familiar hits the front line like a battering ram, twice the size of Rex and made of things that don't die easy. And the hunters break. Rex leads the pack into the gap, a tide of fur and fang and 400 years of pent-up fury. And Seung-hyun goes straight for Wu Jin. The throne room is waiting. He doesn't know how he knows that. Doesn't know if it's the map or the lair itself or the thing in the depths that opened its eyes and found him worthy. But he knows. He reaches level 60 and the world shifts. Wu Jin is there, standing on the obsidian platform with God's heart burning in his chest and a sword in his hand that Seung-hyun recognizes. It's Dragon Fang, the same blade that killed him. The Lord is between them, his massive body blocking the throne, and he looks at Seung-hyun with those impossible multicolored eyes. He says he's proud of him. Proud. 400 years of solitude and pain and waiting for a weapon sharp enough to finish the job. And he's proud of the dead wolf who walked into his lair and refused to die. Seung-hyun doesn't know what to say to that. He doesn't get the chance. Wu Jin moves. God's heart flares, golden light washing over the throne room, and the Lord meets him head-on. The fight is ugly. It's not elegant or strategic, or any of the things Seung-hyun remembers from his human days. It's two apex predators trying to kill each other with everything they have. Dragon Fang bites into the Lord's shoulder, and the Lord's claws tear through Wu Jin's armor, and the blue veins in the walls pulse faster and faster, like a heartbeat approaching its limit. Seung-hyun circles. His pack is still fighting in the gate chamber, his familiar holding the line, but this fight is his alone. He shadow steps. 6 feet, he's on Wu Jin's flank, Viper Fang seeking the gap in his armor, and Wu Jin spins with that impossible speed of his and catches him across the ribs with Dragon Fang. The blade burns. It's not just steel, it's the weapon that killed him, the weapon that stole his heart, and it knows him. He hits the floor hard, blood pooling under him, and Wu Jin raises the sword for the killing blow. The Lord catches it. His claws close around Dragon Fang's blade, black blood running down his foreleg. And he looks at Seung-hyun with something that might be mercy. He says this was always the plan. He says he's been waiting for someone strong enough to carry what he's been holding. He says his core is Seung-hyun's if he wants it. Then Wu Jin drives Dragon Fang through his chest. The Lord falls. His body hits the obsidian platform with a sound like the world cracking, and the blue light in the walls flickers once, twice, and holds. He's not dead yet, but he's close. Seung-hyun lunges, not at Wu Jin, at the Lord. His jaws close around the core before his conscious mind catches up with what he's doing, before the horror can set in, before he can think about what it means to eat the heart of the only creature who ever believed in him. The core is cold. It's vast and dark and full of 400 years of pain and duty and the kind of loneliness that eats you from the inside out. And its power. SS rank power. The kind that remakes worlds. The kind that holds the abyss itself at bay. He swallows. The world ends. The world begins again, and Seung-hyun is standing in a void with the Abyssal Lord beside him. Not the monster, the man. No Taeho, S-rank hunter, leader of Starfall, the man who was betrayed and broken and rebuilt into something that could hold back the dark. He's smiling. He says he knew Seung-hyun could do it. He says the lair is his now. He says to make it count. Then he's gone. Seung-hyun opens his eyes. Wu Jin is staring at him, Dragon Fang still wet with the Lord's blood, and his face is doing something complicated. Fear. Respect. The dawning realization that he just killed the only thing keeping the abyss contained. And now its power is in the wolf at his feet. Seung-hyun changes. It's not gentle. It's not clean. His bones crack and reform. His fur darkens to the color of a bruise. And his eyes open with all the colors of the shrine crystal, and then some. He grows. 8 feet at the shoulder, then 10, then 12, and his shadow stretches across the obsidian floor like a stain that won't wash out. Abyssal form. SS rank transformation. The final gift of a dead man who trusted him with everything. Wu Jin takes a step back. Seung-hyun takes a step forward. The throne room trembles. He can feel the lair now, every tunnel and chamber and hidden heart. Every monster still breathing, and every corpse still cooling. He can feel the pack fighting in the gate chamber, his familiar holding the line, Rex bleeding but still standing. He can feel the abyss pressing against the seal, hungry and endless and patient. And he can feel his memories, the ones he's lost, scattered across his kills like breadcrumbs in a dark forest. His first date with Yu Jung, his sister's name. The team dinner after the Griffin clear. They're gone. Every single one. The Lord's core burned through them like kindling, power demanding its price. And Seung-hyun is left standing in the wreckage of his own mind, with nothing but a name and a mission. Woo-jin. Betrayal. Revenge. He doesn't remember why. He doesn't remember who he was before the knife went in. He just knows that the man in front of him has to die. Our boy bares his teeth. They're longer now, sharper, and his voice, when he speaks, doesn't sound like a wolf anymore. It sounds like the abyss. He says Woo-jin's name. Woo-jin flinches, and the lair begins to collapse around them. The throne room doesn't just collapse. It tears itself apart from the inside. Stone splits along seams that weren't there a second ago, and blue light bleeds out of every crack like the lair is hemorrhaging. Seung-hyun stands 12 feet tall in a body that isn't his anymore. Bruise-colored fur drinking the glow, and he feels everything. Every tunnel buckling, every chamber caving in, every monster still breathing, and every monster already dead. Woo-jin is already running. God's heart flares gold in his chest, and he's fast, faster than he has any right to be. Dragon fangs still dripping black blood as he bolts for the Eastern Passage. The same passage Seung-hyun collapsed. Guess what's still blocked? Our boy doesn't chase him yet. He can't. The lair is screaming, not with sound, but with something deeper. Something that vibrates in the marrow of his new bones. The Lord is dead. 400 years of willpower holding the seal shut, and now that will is gone and the abyss knows it. The seal is cracking. Deep below, somewhere under miles of stone and shadow, something presses against a door that was never supposed to open. And it's hungry. Seung-hyun turns from Woo-jin's escape route and makes a choice. The pack first. He reaches for the familiar bond and finds his shadow wolf still fighting in the gate chamber. Starlight body flickering. Teeth locked around a black fang hunter's arm. The hunter's partner is raising an axe. Seung-hyun shadow steps. 6 feet. Another 6. The range is the same, but his mana pool isn't. Not anymore. And he burns through the distance in leaps that don't exist in normal space. He hits the gate chamber at full size, and 12 feet of Abyssal Wolf lands in the middle of a battlefield. Everyone freezes. Hunters, monsters, the whole screaming mess of them. Rex is down on one flank, bleeding from a gash across his ribs, but still standing. The familiar whines, relieved, and Seung-hyun feels its exhaustion like his own. The hunters open their mouths to shout something. Orders, probably. Curses, definitely. Doesn't matter. Seung-hyun opens his jaws, and his voice rolls out like a rock slide. He tells them to leave, now, while they still can. The Black Fang hunters look at each other. Then they look at the 12-foot nightmare wolf with eyes full of dying stars. They leave. All of them, human and monster alike, pouring out of the gate chamber in a tide of survival instinct and sensible life choices. Rex limps to Seung-hyun's side. The familiar dissolves into shadow and reforms at his flank. 24 shadow wolves fall in behind them. Lair shudders again. A tunnel collapses somewhere to the north, the sound muffled but unmistakable. And Seung-hyun knows they have minutes, maybe less. He reaches for the map. It's still in the stone fold, still warm, still pulsing with that faint blue light. He pulls it out with jaws that can crush steel, and he looks at the 4 marks. Viper's Grove, cleared. Wolf's Head, Rex's Den. Circle with Flame, the elemental shrine. And the 4th, the spiral folding in on itself, pulsing like a heartbeat. It's not pulsing anymore. It's burning. Bright enough to hurt. Bright enough to cast shadows across the collapsing chamber. And Seung-hyun understands what the invitation was. The giant wolf. The heart the size of a house. The eyes that were windows into something cold and hungry and endless. Was telling him where to go when the end came. Our boy tucks the map back and runs. The pack follows. They move like a single creature, 24 wolves flowing through tunnels that are coming apart around them. A stalactite the size of a man drops from the ceiling, and Seung-hyun doesn't dodge. He lets it hit him. Stone skin activates on instinct, abyssal form layered over it like a second skeleton, and the stalactite shatters. He doesn't slow down. The tunnel slopes down, deeper than anything he's climbed before, steeper than the Viper's Grove or the Heart Chamber, and the walls change as they descend. The claw marks vanish. The blue veins stop pulsing. The stone goes smooth and black and cold, like the lair was built on top of something much older. Rex whines. The pack slows. Even the familiar hesitates, and that thing is made of shadow and loyalty and doesn't hesitate for anything. Seung-hyun keeps going. The tunnel opens into a cavern. Not the heart chamber, something else. The ceiling is so high, the map's glow doesn't reach it, and the floor is black stone polished to a mirror shine. In the center, a door. It's not stone or metal or anything. Seung-hyun has a name for it. It's 20 feet tall, the color of a bruise, and it's covered in chains that aren't chains. They're veins. Blue light pulses through them in a rhythm that matches the lair's heartbeat, and the door is cracked down the middle, barely an inch, but enough. Behind that crack, nothing but darkness. Not the normal kind, the kind that moves. Seung-hyun feels it looking at him. The abyss. The seal. The thing No Tae-ho held shut for 400 years. It's breaking, and our boy is standing right in front of it. The map burns in his jaws. He drops it, and the worm hide hits the floor. And the spiral mark unfolds into something else. A name. Written in blood that's still wet. Kang Eun-ha, the healer, the 5th member of Starfall, the one who didn't die. The map flares one last time, and the spiral rearranges itself into an image. Woman in golden armor, younger than she should be, standing in a grove that looks exactly like the Viper's but older. A tree with silver leaves, roots that glow with the same blue light as the lair's veins. And at the base of the tree, a door. Smaller than the one in front of him, but the same design, the same chains, the same crack. Seung-hyun understands. The 4th mark wasn't a destination, it was a key. Kang Eun-ha survived the betrayal 400 years ago. She knew what Gwon Ho-suk did. She must have carried a piece of the seal with her, hidden it somewhere no one would look, and the map was telling him where. The lair shakes. A chunk of ceiling the size of a house drops, and Seung-hyun's shadow steps out of its path. He has seconds. He grabs the map and turns to the pack and tells them to go. Up the northern passage, toward the surface, toward the cave mouth, where the air smells like pine and dirt. Rex doesn't move. He looks at Seung-hyun with those yellow eyes and he doesn't move. Our boy snarls. Rex snarls back. And then he turns, and he runs. And the pack follows him into the dark. The familiar stays. Seung-hyun doesn't have time to argue. Turns back to the seal, to the door that's cracking open inch by inch. And he does the only thing he can think of. He pushes his will against it. Abyssal form. S rank power. The last gift of a dead man who trusted him with everything. It's not enough. It's never been enough. Not for one man, and not for one wolf, and not for anything short of 4 centuries of suffering. But he doesn't have to hold it forever. He just has to hold it long enough. The blue veins in the door pulse faster. The crack stops widening. Seung-hyun's legs buckle. The pressure is indescribable, like holding up the sky with his spine. And he feels his mana draining faster than he can track. 80%? 60? 40? The familiar presses against his flank, feeding him what it can. But it's already exhausted from the fight. 20%. The lair groans. Stone grinds against stone somewhere above him, and part of the ceiling peels away, and Seung-hyun looks up and sees daylight. Real daylight. Pale and cold and impossibly far away. The cave mouth is collapsing, but the northern passage is still open. Rex and the pack will make it. 5%. Seung-hyun makes a choice. He drops the seal. Not all at once. Not completely. But he lets the pressure slide off his shoulders, and he shadow steps. 6 feet toward the northern passage. Door cracks wider behind him. Something on the other side laughs. It's not a sound. It's a feeling. Cold and wet and utterly without mercy. And Seung-hyun runs faster than he's ever run in either of his lives. The tunnel is coming apart. He shadow steps through falling rock and dodges collapsing pillars, and the familiar dissolves and reforms at his side every time the path closes. Behind them, daylight gets brighter. The air gets colder. Pine and dirt and the distant smell of snow. He bursts out of the cave mouth just as the mountain collapses behind him. The sound is apocalyptic. Stone grinding against stone, 1,000,000 tons of rock settling into a new shape. And when the dust clears, the cave is gone. Buried under 50 feet of granite and shadow, the seal is still down there. Broken, but not open. Cracked wide enough to let something through, maybe, but not wide enough to end the world. Seung-hyun stands on a mountainside in the middle of nowhere and breathes air that doesn't taste like copper. Rex is 50 feet away, climbing out of a secondary tunnel with the pack behind him. 24 shadow wolves, battered and bleeding and alive. Familiar dissolves into shadow and merges back into Seung-hyun's mana pool, exhausted past the point of usefulness. 3% mana. 24 wolves. A worm-hide map that just showed him the location of a 400-year-old healer. And Wu Jin, still out there. Still holding Dragonfang. Still breathing. Our boy is done running. He looks at Rex, and Rex looks back. And something passes between them that doesn't need words. The pack moves out. Down the mountain, through the tree line, toward a world that has no idea what just crawled out of the ground. They travel for 3 days. Not because Seung-hyun needs rest, though he does, but because the map is leading them somewhere specific, and it doesn't care about impatience. The worm hide glows brighter at night, the spiral mark pulsing in time with a heartbeat that isn't his. Every time they stop to rest, it rearranges itself a little more. A river here, a ridge there. A valley that hasn't been on any map for 4 centuries. On the 3rd night, Seung-hyun finds a campsite, not abandoned, recent. 3 tents. Cold ash in the fire pit, boot prints that haven't been washed away by the rain. He sniffs the air. Human. 3 of them. All hunters, based on the mana residue. And something else. Something familiar. He follows the scent to a leather pack left half open. and inside it, he finds a journal. Bound in monster hide, pages thin and brittle with age. The handwriting is neat and precise, the kind of penmanship you learn when you have centuries to practice. He flips to the first page. My name is Kang Eun-ha. I am the last member of Starfall. I've been hiding for 400 years, waiting for someone to find this. If you're reading it, you're either very brave or very desperate, or both. Seung-hyun keeps reading. The journal is 400 years of notes, observations, plans. Most of it is about the seal, about ways to reinforce it, about the slow decay of a door that was never meant to last forever. The last third is about Woo-jin, not the Woo-jin Seung-hyun knew, the Woo-jin who came before. Kang Eun-ha writes that God's heart isn't just a skill. It's a fragment of the abyss itself, a seed planted in a human soul that grows and grows and eventually devours its host. Woo-jin doesn't know this. He thinks he's stealing power. He thinks he's becoming a god. He's becoming a door. Kang Eun-ha's notes are detailed. She's been tracking God's heart for centuries, watching it pass from host to host, and every single one of them has ended up in the same place. The Soul Sanctum, a temple built on a ley line so powerful it can amplify any skill to godlike proportions. If Woo-jin activates God's heart there, the fragment will consume him, and when it does, it'll tear a hole in the world big enough to let the abyss through. Not a crack, not a seal, a door. Open and unguarded and waiting. Seung-hyun knows where the Soul Sanctum is. Every S-rank hunter does. It's a restricted zone, cordoned off by the guilds for decades, supposedly too dangerous for anyone to enter. Woo-jin doesn't care about dangerous. He cares about power. And according to Kang Eun-ha's notes, the next leyline convergence is in 6 days. Our boy closes the journal. He looks at the map, at the spiral that isn't a spiral, at the grove with the silver tree, and the door that needs to be found. Kang Eun-ha is still alive. The map leads to her. He has the other half of the seal, the piece that can reinforce the door long enough for Seung-hyun to do what needs to be done. 6 days. That's all he has. 6 days to find the healer, reach the Soul Sanctum, and stop Woo-jin from doing something so catastrophically stupid it'll end the world. And he has to do it in a body that's eating his memories one by one. Our boy bares his teeth at the stars. The pack stirs behind him. Rex pads over and lies down at his side. And Seung-hyun feels something that might be gratitude, and might be grief, and might be the last shred of his humanity holding on by its fingernails. He doesn't remember his sister's name. He doesn't remember his first date with Yoo-jung. He doesn't remember the team dinner after the Griffin Clear. But he remembers the mission. Woo-jin, betrayal, revenge. And now, underneath all of that, something bigger. The abyss is waiting. The door is cracking, and somewhere out there, a 400-year-old healer is holding a key that might just save everything. He tucks the journal into his inventory and stands up. The map glows in his jaws, leading west, toward the grove and the silver tree, and whatever's left of Kang Eun-ha. 6 days. No pressure. The map leads west. 6 days until the convergence. And our boy is not wasting a single second of them. They run through the night. 24 shadow wolves tearing across the landscape in a black tide, Rex at the front, Seung-hyun in the middle, riding his 12-foot frame like a landslide waiting to happen. The worm-hide map glows in his jaws, the spiral mark pulsing steady, and every few miles it rearranges itself to correct their course, like it knows exactly where they need to go, like it's been waiting 400 years for someone to follow it. First light finds them in a valley Seung-hyun doesn't recognize. Not that he'd remember it even if he had been here before. The memory erosion is a quiet thief now, taking pieces he doesn't notice until he reaches for them and finds nothing. He tries to remember his sister's face and gets the shape of her jawline and nothing else. He tries to remember Yoo-jung's voice and gets the pitch of it, the rhythm, but the words are gone. He bares his teeth and keeps running. Not the time for grief, not the time for anything except forward. Midday brings the first hunters. They crest a ridge and there they are. A party of 5, B rank based on the mana signatures, spread out in a loose formation across the valley floor. Swords out, shields up, clearly tracking something. One of them points at the tree line. The mage in the back starts casting. They haven't seen the wolves yet. Rex growls low in his throat. Seung-hyun doesn't slow down. He signals the pack with a flick of his tail, and the wolves fan out, flanking. Silent. A net of teeth and shadow closing around prey that still thinks it's hunting. The party leader is a big guy with a scar down his face and a sword that's seen better days. He crouches over a set of tracks in the mud and says something that makes the others laugh. Probably thinks they're tracking a dire boar. Probably thinks this is just another Tuesday. Our boy hits them from 3 sides at once. X takes the tank, slamming into his shield hard enough to send him flying into a boulder. The man doesn't get up. The wolves hit the mage next, dragging her down by the ankles before she can finish whatever spell she's weaving. Her scream cuts off fast. The remaining 3 try to form up, back to back, weapons out. Seung-hyun steps out of the trees, all 12 feet of him. Bruise-colored fur rippling with abyssal power, multicolored eyes burning like dying stars in his skull. And behind him, the shadow wolf familiar rises out of the ground like a nightmare learning to walk. The party leader drops his sword. Smart guy. Doesn't help. Seung-hyun crosses the distance in 2 strides and pins the man under one paw. Claws the size of daggers pressing into his chest plate, but not piercing yet. He looks at the other 2. He looks at their weapons. He looks back at the ground. They drop everything. He lets them run. Not out of mercy, though he's not above it. He lets them run because they'll talk. They'll reach whatever town or outpost or guild hall is closest, and they'll tell everyone what they saw. A giant wolf with eyes full of dying light. A pack of shadows that moves like a single creature. Something that shouldn't exist. Rumors spread faster than armies. Woo Jin will hear them, and Woo Jin will know exactly who's coming. The tank is dead. The mage is dead. Seung-hyun doesn't absorb their cores. He's already losing memories faster than he can count them. And there's no skill worth forgetting. Yu Jung's voice, or his sister's jaw, or the way the Griffin's blood looked on the snow. Not yet. Not until he needs it. They move on. The second day brings 3 more parties. The first one is easy. A pair of scouts with C-rank mana and no sense of self-preservation, walking straight into a pack of wolves like they're out for a stroll. Rex takes one look at them and huffs a breath that's almost a laugh. Seung-hyun doesn't even bother getting up. The pack handles it. The second one is more interesting. 6 hunters, mixed B and A rank, with a formation that actually makes sense. Tanks front, ranged back, healer in the middle. They spot the wolves before the wolves spot them, and the whole party goes combat ready in 3 seconds flat. Professional. Disciplined. Probably a guild strike team running a patrol. Seung-hyun watches them from the tree line, lying flat, his familiar dissolved into shadow and waiting beneath the earth. He could take them. He's level 60 with an SS rank transformation, and a pack that would die for him. But a fight with an A rank party takes time and mana he doesn't have to spare. The convergence is 4 days away. Kang Eun-ha is somewhere ahead. Woo Jin is somewhere ahead of her. He chooses stealth. The wolves melt back into the trees without a sound, shadows among shadows. And the patrol passes through the valley without ever knowing they were a heartbeat away from annihilation. Our boy has learned patience. It took him dying twice and losing half his memories, but he learned it. The third party doesn't get patience. They're camped by a river. 5 hunters and a bound monster on a leash. The monster is a young drake, maybe 6 months old. Scales still soft, wings too small to fly. It's bleeding from a dozen cuts, and one of the hunters is poking it with a spear every time it tries to lie down. Laughing about it. Making a game of it. Seung-hyun doesn't remember his sister's name. He doesn't remember his first date with Yu Jung. But he remembers being small and helpless, and surrounded by things that wanted to hurt him. That memory hasn't eroded yet. Maybe it never will. He doesn't signal the pack, doesn't coordinate, doesn't do anything tactical or clever. He just walks out of the trees and starts killing. The first hunter dies with his spear still in his hand. Seung-hyun's jaws closing around his torso and shaking once, twice, 3 times until the screaming stops. The second hunter gets off a spell, some kind of firebolt that splashes harmlessly against Seung-hyun's stone skin. She tries to run. Shadow step. 6 feet. He's in front of her. She doesn't try anything else. The other 3 scatter. One makes it 50 feet before Rex runs him down. One makes it 100 before the pack catches him. The last one, the one with the spear that was poking the drake, trips over a root and lands face down in the mud. Seung-hyun walks over slow. The man is crying now, begging, saying something about a family, about a guild, about how he'll never hunt again if he's just let go. Our boy remembers a guard in Eclipse who begged the same way. That guard died with an iron rod in his throat. He doesn't kill this one either. He steps on his leg, hard. Bone snaps like a dry branch, and the man screams into the mud, and Seung-hyun looks down at him with eyes that hold dying stars. Then he turns to the drake. The little thing is still bleeding, still trembling, still half convinced this is just another cruelty waiting to happen. Seung-hyun lowers his head, meets its eyes, waits. Rex pads up beside him and lies down in the grass, casual. Like, this is the most normal thing in the world. Pack settles in a loose ring around them. 24 wolves and one enormous familiar and a drake that doesn't understand what mercy looks like. It takes 10 minutes before the drake limps over and presses its snout against Seung-hyun's foreleg. He doesn't move, doesn't speak, just stays there, breathing, letting the little thing understand it's safe now. When they move on, the drake follows. It can't fly yet, but it can walk, and that's enough. Our boy's pack just got bigger. The third day brings the map's destination. They come out of the tree line into a grove surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. The air here is old, heavy with mana that's been accumulating for centuries, and the ground is covered in silver grass that moves like water in the wind. At the center of the grove stands a tree. Silver bark, silver leaves, Roots that spread out across the ground like veins of mercury, trunk wide enough to build a house inside. And at the base of the tree, half hidden in the roots, a door. Small. Wooden. Covered in symbols Seung-hyun doesn't recognize. It hums with power that tastes like the healing fountain back in the lair. Like something old and kind and very, very tired. The map goes dark, not dead. Done. It's brought him where he needs to be. Seung-hyun tucks it into his inventory and approaches the door. The wolves hang back. Not because he signaled them, because something about this place makes them uneasy. The grass whispers against their paws. Tree creaks like it's breathing. Even Rex stops at the edge of the grove. Ears flat, eyes tracking something none of them can see. The familiar dissolves into shadow and sinks beneath the earth. Not gone, just waiting. The drake crouches in the grass and doesn't move. Our boy walks to the door alone. He shifts as he goes, abyssal form folding back into something smaller, something that won't scare whoever's inside. By the time he reaches the door, he's the size of a normal wolf, still bruise-colored, still carrying power that crackles against the edges of the world, but smaller, manageable. He raises a paw and rakes it across the wood 3 times. A long silence. Then footsteps, slow, measured. The gait of someone who's been alive long enough that nothing hurries them anymore. The door opens. Kang Eun-ha looks exactly like her handwriting. Neat, composed, eyes that have watched 4 centuries pass and still haven't stopped paying attention. She's small, barely 5 feet, with silver hair pulled back in a tight braid, and hands that glow faintly with residual healing magic. She looks at the wolf on her doorstep and doesn't flinch, doesn't scream, doesn't reach for a weapon. She just looks, and after a moment she nods like she's been expecting this. She says she knew someone would come. She says the map was keyed to activate when the seal was broken. She says she's been waiting for this day for 400 years. Seung-hyun stays still, doesn't speak. He can't speak in this body anyway, not in words she'd understand. But she looks at his eyes, at the dying stars spinning in his irises, and her expression shifts. She asks if No Tae-ho is dead. He nods. Once. Slow. She closes her eyes. For a long moment she doesn't move, doesn't breathe, doesn't do anything except stand there with 4 centuries of grief moving across her face like a storm. Then she opens her eyes and steps aside. She tells him to come in. She says they have a lot to talk about. She says the convergence is in 3 days and they're running out of time. Our boy walks through the door and into the house built inside a silver tree. And the last thing he sees before the door closes is Rex settling down in the grass to wait. The inside of the tree is bigger than it should be. Spatial magic, woven so deep into the wood, it's part of the structure now. Rooms branch off in directions that don't quite make sense. A staircase spirals up into what should be the trunk, but is somehow a full 2nd floor. Kang Eun-ha leads him to a study lined with books and scrolls, and a map that covers the entire back wall. The map shows the continent. Hundreds of points marked in faded ink. Ley lines. Convergence points. Gates that have opened and closed across 400 years of history. And at the center of it all, the Soul Sanctum. Pulsing with light she's painted onto the parchment. She says Wu Jin is already there. She's been tracking God's heart for centuries, watching it move from host to host, and this one is moving faster than any of the others. He reached the sanctum yesterday. He's been inside for almost 24 hours. The convergence will give him the boost he needs to activate the fragment. Seung-hyun growls low in his throat, deep, hungry. She doesn't flinch. She says there's still time. She's been preparing for this. 400 years of preparation. She opens a cabinet and pulls out something wrapped in cloth that smokes at the edges. The other half of the seal. A fragment of the original door, shaped into a key the size of her forearm, pulsing with blue light that matches the veins in the layer. She says it was hers. She was the one who helped build the seal 400 years ago, when No Tae-ho made his deal to become the warden. She was the healer who watched her party die, who watched her tank betray them, watched her leader give up his humanity to hold back something that couldn't be fought. She's been carrying this key ever since, waiting, watching, keeping it safe. She says the key can seal the door permanently, not just hold it, seal it, erase it. But it has to be used at the moment of the convergence, when the abyss is pressing hardest against the barrier, when the door is most real. And someone has to get it into the heart of the Soul Sanctum. Someone has to face Wu Jin. Someone has to take back God's heart. Someone has to use the key while the fragment is still raw and bleeding, and the abyss is still reaching through. She says she's too old to make the trip, not in the time they have. Her body isn't what it was. 400 years of healing magic can't stop the slow decay of age. She can give him the key. She can tell him what to do. She can't do it for him. Our boy looks at the key, looks at the map. looks at the woman who's been carrying this burden since before his great-great-grandparents were born. He takes the key. It burns cold against his teeth, a cold that seeps through his jaw and into his bones and tastes like the abyss fighting back. Kang Eun-ha tells him to be careful. She says the key will try to eat him if he holds it too long. She says the abyss knows what it is, and it's been trying to destroy it for 4 centuries. Seung-hyun tucks the key into his inventory next to the journal and the map, and the viper fang that's killed more things than he can remember. The cold doesn't stop, but he's been cold before. Kang Eun-ha gives him one more thing, small vial, filled with liquid that glows the same golden color as the healing fountain. She says it's a distilled essence, concentrated beyond anything modern alchemy can produce. It won't heal his memories. Nothing can do that. But it'll keep him standing, keep him fighting, give him one more shot when his mana runs dry. He takes it. She reaches out and puts her hand on his head, right between his ears, and her palm is warm in a way that reminds him of something he's lost. She says she's sorry. She says she wishes she could have been there. She says No Tae-ho was a good man, once, and she's glad he found someone worth giving his power to. Seung-hyun doesn't know what to do with that, so he just stands there, letting her hand rest on his head, letting the warmth of it settle into his fur. Then he turns and walks out the door. Rex is waiting. The pack is waiting. The Drake is waiting. The familiar rises out of the ground and falls into step beside him. Seung-hyun shifts back into abyssal form, 12 feet of bruise-colored fury, and the key in his inventory burns cold against his soul. 3 days to the Soul Sanctum. Woojin is already there. The convergence is coming. Our boy bares his teeth at the sky and starts running. The Soul Sanctum isn't a building. It's a wound in the sky. A crack in reality that pulses with the same blue light as the key burning cold in his inventory. Seung-hyun stands at the edge of a crater 3 miles wide and stares up at it. The pack spreads out behind him. Rex, 24 shadow wolves, the Drake still too young to understand what it's seeing. His familiar rises out of the ground like starlight pooling upward. The sanctum floats 300 feet above the crater floor. No stairs, no bridge. Just a vertical climb up rock that's been fused into glass by whatever power leaks out of that crack. The convergence is already starting. Ley lines visible to the naked eye, rivers of light crawling across the ground toward the sanctum like veins feeding a heart. The air tastes like ozone and copper, and something older than both. Our boy doesn't hesitate. He shifts into abyssal form mid-stride, 12 feet of bruise-colored fury, and begins climbing. His claws punch through the fused rock like it's wet clay. The pack follows. The familiar flows upward alongside him like a second shadow. The Drake struggles, but Rex snaps at its tail, and the little idiot figures it out. Halfway up, the sanctum starts to resist. Pressure that wasn't there before pushes down against them. Not physical, something that presses against the mind. The key burns colder. Seung-hyun climbs faster, 200 feet. The pressure doubles. The pack whines. 100 feet. A shadow wolf loses its grip and falls, and Seung-hyun's familiar shoots down to catch it before it hits the glass floor. 50 feet. The Drake's wings finally catch an updraft of ley line energy, and it shoots past him like a scaly cannonball. Then he's through. The inside of the Soul Sanctum is not what he expected. It's a cathedral, not built by human hands. Walls are made of something that isn't stone, flowing and reforming every few seconds like the sanctum can't decide what shape it wants to be. The ceiling is open to a sky that isn't the same sky he left outside. Stars that don't exist in any constellation he's ever seen. At the center of it all, a raised dais. And on the dais, an altar that's been carved from a single piece of obsidian that drinks the starlight and gives nothing back. Woojin is there. He stands with his back to the entrance, arms raised, dragon fang planted in the altar like a key in a lock. God's heart burns so bright in his chest, it's visible through his armor, through his skin, a gold so intense it hurts to look at. He's been here for almost 24 hours. The convergence is feeding him power. The ritual is almost complete. And Yu Jung, she's stationed between Woojin and the entrance. Her staff is raised. A barrier shimmers around the dais, a dome of blue light she's been maintaining for hours. Her face is drawn, exhausted. But her eyes are sharp. She sees him the moment he clears the entrance. The pack pouring in behind him. Rex, the Drake, the familiar. She doesn't run. She doesn't scream. She just sets her jaw and tightens her grip on the staff, and the barrier hardens into something that looks like it could stop a meteor. Seung-hyun walks toward it. His claws click against the shifting floor. The pack stays back. This isn't their fight. Rex growls low in his throat but doesn't move. The familiar circles wide, looking for a gap in the barrier. The Drake huddles behind Rex and tries very hard to look fierce. Yu Jung speaks. Not to him. To Woojin, without turning around. She says the wolf is here. She asks how much longer. Woojin doesn't answer. He's too deep in the ritual. The altar is drinking something out of him. The gold in his chest is starting to spread, veins of light crawling up his neck, down his arms, into the stone beneath his feet. Our boy reaches the barrier. He presses one massive paw against it. The dome ripples, sizzles. The cold from the abyss in his veins meets the warmth of her healing magic, and the two cancel each other out in a spray of blue sparks. He could break it. Abyssal form at level 60. SS rank transformation, the key burning in his inventory like a second heart. Could shatter that barrier in 3 hits, maybe 2. But underneath that barrier is Yu-jung, and when the barrier breaks, she'll be the first thing in his path. He looks at her through the dome. She looks back, and something in her expression shifts. A flicker, a crack. The same doubt he saw in the lair, in the tunnels. In every moment when Woo-jin's charisma wasn't enough to drown out the question she's been asking herself for a year. He makes a choice. Shadow step. 6 feet. He doesn't cross the barrier. He crosses into the space between them, the space where his consciousness brushes against hers. The abyssal form gives him more than just size. It gives him reach, and he reaches past the barrier. Not with claws, with memory. The familiar rears up behind him and opens its mouth, and what comes out is not a growl. It's a bark. A specific bark. Sound a wolf cub makes when it's lost and scared, and calling for the only person who ever made it feel safe. The sound Seung-hyun made the first time Yu-jung found him in a dungeon, bleeding from a gash on his arm, scared out of his mind. A rookie who'd bitten off more than he could chew. She freezes. She knows that sound. She's known it since the day she wrapped his arm in steady hands and told him to breathe. She's heard it in her dreams for a year. She hears it now, and her staff wavers. Seung-hyun pushes harder. The familiar's body flickers, shifts. The starlight rearranges itself into something smaller, something human-shaped, something that stands exactly the way Oh Yu-jung remembers a man standing on a rooftop 3 years ago, looking at the sunset and telling her he used to watch it from a balcony in a house that doesn't exist anymore. The barrier cracked. Not from the outside, from the inside, from her. From the healer who can't heal herself, who's been holding this barrier for hours on mana reserves and loyalty, and the desperate hope that Woo-jin is the man she convinced herself he was. She looks at the familiar, looks at the wolf, looks at the thing she killed by believing the wrong person. Sunny. He doesn't say it. He can't speak. But the familiar holds up its hand, and in its palm is a small thing. A memory he hasn't lost yet. A silver bracelet he gave her on her birthday, the first year they were a team. She lost it in the Griffin raid. She never told anyone it mattered. He kept it. The barrier shatters. Yu-jung drops to her knees. Her staff clatters to the floor. Her mana is gone, and her voice is gone, and her conviction is gone. And all that's left is a woman looking at a monster and seeing the man she loved. She says his name, not Woo-jin's, his. Ma Seung-hyun. She asks if it's really him. He steps through the fading shards of the barrier and stands over her. 12 feet of wolf, bruise-colored fur, eyes full of dying stars. He looks down at the woman who didn't know she was betraying him, who trusted the wrong leader, who has lived with that guilt for a year. He nods. Then he walks past her, toward Woo-jin, toward the altar, toward the man who stole everything from him. Yu-jung screams, not at him, at Woo-jin. She screams that it's Seung-hyun. She screams that he's alive. She screams that everything Woo-jin told them was a lie. Woo-jin finally turns. Dragon Fang pulls free of the altar with a sound like tearing silk. God's heart flares. The ritual is incomplete, but it's close enough. Close enough to give him power. Close enough to make him something more than human. He looks at Yu-jung on her knees, looks at the pack, looks at Rex, looks at the Drake, looks at the familiar holding a silver bracelet in starlight hands. He looks at Seung-hyun, and he laughs. He laughs and says he didn't think the dog would follow him this far. He says it doesn't matter. He says the ritual is almost done, and when it is, he'll have everything he wanted, and the abyss will answer to him, and Seung-hyun will be nothing but a bad memory he'll finally get to erase. He raises Dragon Fang. God's heart pulses. Gold lightning crawls down the blade. Seung-hyun bares his teeth. No Shadow Step, no Viper Fang, no Stone Skin, no Elemental Infusion, no Summon Familiar, no Abyssal Strike. He's used all of those before. Woo-jin knows them. Woo-jin is prepared for them. The key. He pulls it from his inventory, the other half of the seal. A fragment of the original door, size of a forearm, wrapped in cloth that smokes at the edges. The blue light of it cuts through the gold of God's heart like a knife through fog. Woo-jin stops laughing. The key burns so cold, it feels like his teeth are freezing and cracking, but he doesn't drop it. He holds it. He steps forward. The cathedral shudders. The walls stop trying to decide what shape they want to be and settle on something jagged and wrong. The stars in the fake sky flicker. The convergence is peaking. This is the moment Kang Un-ha told him about. The moment the abyss presses hardest against the barrier. The moment the door is most real. The moment the key can seal it permanently. or the moment Woojin can use it to tear the door open. Our boy doesn't give him the chance. He lunges, 12 feet of wolf moving at a speed that shouldn't be possible. The key clamped in his jaws like a blade. Dragon Fang comes down. Gold lightning meets blue abyss light. The impact shakes the cathedral. Cracks spider across the floor. The altar splits down the middle. Woojin is strong. S rank. Augmented by an almost complete ritual. God's heart burning in his chest like a dying sun. He matches Seung-hyun blow for blow. Dragon Fang cuts a gash across his shoulder. Its claws tear through Woojin's armor. They crash into the altar, into the walls, into the floor that isn't stone and doesn't break so much as scream when they hit it. But Seung-hyun has something Woojin doesn't. He has a pack. Rex hits Woojin from the left, the familiar from the right. The Drake, the stupid little Drake, spits something that isn't quite fire but isn't quite anything else either, and catches Woojin across the back. Yoo-jung is still on her knees, but her hands are moving, not to protect Woojin, but to heal the wolves, to mend the gashes Dragon Fang leaves, to do the one thing she's good at, for the one man she believes in again. The Shadow Wolves swarm, not to kill, to slow, to distract, to give their alpha openings. Seung-hyun takes every one. His jaws clamp onto Woojin's sword arm. Crunch. Dragon Fang clatters to the floor. His claws rake across Woojin's chest. The armor gives. God's heart flares. He's reaching for the key, reaching for the seal, reaching for the power he came here to claim. He wraps his jaws around God's heart. Not the fragment in Woojin's chest, the original. Thing Woojin stole from him a year ago. The thing that's been burning gold and hungry and wrong inside a body that doesn't deserve it. He pulls. Woojin screams. The sound is not human. It's something breaking, something being unmade. God's heart tears free in a spray of gold and blood and something darker, something that tastes like the abyss pressing against the barrier. Like the thing the door was built to hold back. The fragment slides down his throat and hits his core like a star going supernova. The cathedral goes white. When the light fades, Seung-hyun is still standing. Woojin is on the ground. Dragon Fang lies a few feet away, dim. The black blood on the blade finally dried. God's heart is gone from his chest. The wound it left behind is already closing. The abyss doesn't need a door anymore. It has a host. Woojin looks up at him. His eyes are empty. Not dead, just empty. Everything that made him Shin Woojin, the hero, the leader, the betrayer, the man who would tear open reality for power, gone, ripped out. He asks what Seung-hyun is. Our boy doesn't answer. He can't speak. He's never been able to speak. But the abyss inside him speaks for him. A voice that isn't his, and isn't the Lord's, and isn't human. It says he's what happens when you betray someone who has nothing left to lose. Woojin's eyes close. Now Donghyun turns to Yoo-jung. She's still on her knees. Her hands are still glowing. She's still healing the wolves he brought with him. She looks up at him. There's no fear in her face. No hope either. Just a quiet acceptance. She says she's sorry. She says she should have known. She says she should have trusted him. She says she's been carrying that silver bracelet in her heart for a year, and she knew. She knew something was wrong. She knew Woojin was lying. She knew, and she didn't say anything. And now here they are. She asks him to make it quick. He looks at her. The healer. The woman who loved him. The woman who didn't know she was part of the knife in his back, but was part of it anyway. He looks at her hands. Still healing his pack even now. Still doing what she's good at. Still trying to fix things even when they can't be fixed. The key is still in his inventory. He pulls it out. The blue light of the seal illuminates the cathedral. The convergence is fading. The ley lines are dimming. The moment to seal the door is passing. He walks past Yoo-jung, past the altar, past the broken remnants of a ritual that will never finish. The back wall of the cathedral isn't a wall at all. It's a door, 20 feet tall, covered in chains that pulse with blue light. The original seal. The thing No Tae-ho gave his humanity to protect. The thing Kang Un-ha has been waiting 400 years to close forever. The key slides into a slot at the center of the door like it was made for it. The chains tighten. The blue light brightens. The door starts to close. Seung-hyun feels it happening. The abyss inside him howls. God's heart is a fragment of the abyss. Sealing the door means sealing himself. Means cutting off the source of his power. Means trapping the thing inside him in a cage that will last forever. He turns the key. The door slams shut. The chains wrap around it. The blue light explodes outward and then goes dark, and the door is just a door, just stone. Just something that used to be a threat and is now nothing at all. He feels the abyss scream inside him as it's cut off from its source. The pain is immense. Worse than the betrayal. Worse than dying. Worse than the cold of the key in his teeth. And then it stops. The cathedral crumbles. The space that doesn't belong in reality can't hold together without the abyss pressing through. The walls fold inward. The fake sky collapses. Yoo-jung lunges forward and grabs the drake before it falls into a crack that opens into nothing. Rex herds the pack toward the entrance. The familiar scoops up Dragonfang and the silver bracelet, and everything else that matters. Seung-hyun is still standing in front of the sealed door, the key fused to the lock. His body suddenly too heavy and too light at the same time. The memories are gone. All of them. Yoo-jung's face, his sister's name, the griffin, the first date, the team dinner, the silver bracelet. Every memory he was holding on to, every reason he had for revenge, every piece of Ma Seung-hyun that survived the betrayal, and the death, and the rebirth, and the monster, and the abyss. Gone. All that's left is the wolf. He walks out of the collapsing cathedral with nothing in his head but cold and instinct, and the faint echo of something that used to matter. The pack follows. Yoo-jung follows. The drake follows. The familiar dissolves back into starlight and follows. Behind them, the Soul Sanctum implodes. The wound in the sky closes. The ley lines go dark. And Ma Seung-hyun, the man who was a hero and a victim and a monster and a wolf, walks into the wilderness with 24 shadow wolves at his back, and a healer he can't remember loving, and a drake that still can't fly right. He doesn't remember why he fought. He doesn't remember who betrayed him. He doesn't remember anything except that he's hungry, and there's prey to hunt, and a pack that needs an alpha. The abyss is still inside him. Not a power anymore, not a source, just a fragment, a seed, something that will grow, something that will call, something that the world will notice eventually and try to destroy. He doesn't know that yet. He doesn't know anything. He's just a wolf. 12 feet of bruise-colored fury, eyes full of dying stars, walking into a world that doesn't know what's coming. And somewhere far away, in a grove with a silver tree, Kang Eun-ha feels the door seal and closes her eyes and says 4 words to a man who died 400 years ago and a boy who just died today. She says it costs too much. It doesn't attack, doesn't growl, doesn't move, just watches.